Chapter 49:05. There was no time to think about it. As soon as this idea came to mind, immediately put it into action. He endured the pain, gritted his teeth, and mobilized the power of thunder and lightning that he had gathered around his spiritual root, pouring it out in the form of a lightning strike. Boom! There was a sudden explosion, and the dark blue lightning and the purple lightning collided head-on. Incomparably thick electric arcs instantly scattered in all directions, and it was a magnificent scene of thunder and lightning blooming in the air. Although this sudden inspiration did not allow Lin-Yi to get out of the predicament, unexpectedly, it successfully offset a part of the purple lightning. At the same time, because of this electric discharge, his physical body, which had already reached its limit, also got a chance to breathe. At least there was space for him to refine the purple lightning. Huff, huff. Lin-Yi half knelt on the ground, sweating profusely. He panted heavily, and there were traces of electric burns all over his body. Fortunately, they were not fatal injuries. It was really lucky that he could survive this time. Hee, you are really daring. You can even think of this kind of method. Aren't you afraid that after your lightning is assimilated by the purple lightning, it will turn against you? This time, even the ghostly thing had a lingering fear in its heart. Lightning could absorb each other. Although Lin-Yi's lightning strike had exceeded his usual level, it was still much weaker than the purple lightning. It was very normal for it to be assimilated. However, from the result, it seemed that Lin-Yi had obviously won the gamble. How can I think so much in a hurry? Lin-Yi was also afraid when he thought of this possibility, but he quickly guessed the reason. He rejoiced and said, "It seems that my speculation just now is really right. There is another master behind this purple lightning." "What do you mean?" the ghostly thing asked in confusion. "If this is an emotionless lightning, then my lightning strike is very likely to be assimilated by it, because my thoughts are nothing in the face of the pressure of heaven and earth. However, if it is not a lightning strike, but a lightning strike with the thoughts of someone, then everyone is working for their own master, and it is normal for them to cancel each other out." Lin-Yi speculated. "That makes sense. However, this is just your own speculation. It's mostly a gamble with your life. Kid, your courage is truly frightening." The ghostly thing sighed. "It can't be helped. If we don't bet our lives now, we might not have the chance to do so again." Lin-Yi smiled bitterly. "Fortunately, you won the bet. Otherwise, even I would have to die with you. That would be a great loss. TSK, 2 lives in one body." The ghost pursed its lips and pretended to complain. "Speaking of which, is this how you use 2 lives in one body?" Lin-Yi did not know whether to laugh or cry. It was clearly this guy who had instigated him to come here, and now he had the cheek to complain about him. He really did not know what to say. However, he also knew that this ghostly thing was purely joking. Back then, this guy had abandoned his position as the dignified Azure Dragon Elder and thought of ways to run to the secular world. In the end, he ended up like this, but even so, he had never heard the word regret from him. To put it bluntly, this ghostly thing was a carefree and willful lord. It dared to do anything, but regretting it, the word probably did not exist in its dictionary. As the two of them spoke, the massive resentment in the surroundings suddenly became even more intense. If it was just resentment before, then this feeling had now become a vicious curse. After Lin-Yi noticed it, he was shocked. He really did not expect that he had worked so hard to withstand the 2 lightning bolts. Not only did he not get through the crisis, but it seemed that this was just the beginning. When did he become so hateful? "Kid, you have always attracted hatred. Everywhere you go, you have enemies. Everyone comes to find trouble with you. Aren't you used to it?" The ghostly thing did not miss the opportunity to complain. "Senior, can you be more serious?" It seems that there will be more lightning bolts coming, and they will be stronger than the two just now. If I can't withstand it, we will really die in this damn place." Lin Yi smiled helplessly. "It's okay. Didn't you find a way to deal with it just now? I'm optimistic about you. You won't die." The ghostly thing laughed disapprovingly. It had more confidence in Lin Yi than Lin Yi himself. Even at this time, it still had the mood to joke. Lin Yi shook his head speechlessly. Although the method that he came up with in a hurry did work, who knew how strong the next lightning would be? What if it couldn't withstand it? In any case, this place must not be stayed any longer. Even if it was purely measuring with his feet, he had to find the array as soon as possible and find a way out. Otherwise, it would be a disaster today. Not even a moment later, another bolt of lightning came crashing down on his head. The resentment seemed to carry a cruel sense of pleasure, and just as Lin Yi had expected, this one was stronger than the last. The color of the lightning's eyes was starting to turn dark purple. Once it completely turned into a dark purple lightning, it meant that the power was similar to that of the giant electric eel. It was a terrible killing move that could kill a sea-splitting stage existence with a sneak attack. Even 100 Lin Yi wouldn't be able to withstand it. This time, Lin Yi was already prepared. After receiving the warning from the jade pendant, he did not hesitate to pour out all the power of thunder and lightning accumulated in his body. An incomparably powerful dark blue lightning bolt broke through the air and met the purple lightning first. Lin Yi's heart was uneasy, because this lightning bolt mobilized the extra power of thunder and lightning accumulated in the last time. Its strength was far beyond his own strength. It was even much stronger than ordinary lightning tribulations. It already had the posture of a tenfold lightning tribulation. If it was before, even if you beat him to death, Lin Yi would not have thought that he could release such a powerful lightning bolt. But at this moment, he really couldn't be happy, because even if it was the real tenfold lightning tribulation, it was still too much weaker than the purple lightning bolt above his head. It was really difficult to say how much he could offset. Sure enough, when Lin Yi's dark blue lightning bolt encountered the purple lightning bolt, it almost didn't produce any sparks. In the blink of an eye, it was completely extinguished. Then Lin Yi began to crazily convulse for the third time. The first time was severe pain. The second was torment. But this third time, Lin Yi was a little numb. This kind of thing began to happen again. And again, the degree of pain was greatly reduced, but Lin Yi's heart was sinking little by little because this was really not good news. It must be known that pain was the most important self-protection mechanism of the human body. Once the body felt completely numb, it meant that the body had completely given up resistance. In short, there was no hope. Chapter 49:06. Not only could he resist the lightning to a certain extent, but, most importantly, he could prevent his body from exploding on the spot. That was the minimum condition for him to survive. Lin Yi didn't know how long it had been, but he'd finally made it through the third lightning. His body was charred black, and he looked like a miner who just crawled out of a coal mine. At the same time, he was a ragged homeless man. It was a sight that would make anyone who saw it cry. "I told you, kid, you'll definitely survive. Keep it up." The ghostly thing chuckled. F***CK. Senior, please don't mock me. I'm really going to die if this happens a few more times. Senior, if you have any ideas, please use them now. I really can't hold on any longer, Lin Yi said weakly. He believed that with the ghostly thing's ability, it would not be helpless. If it was willing to help, it would definitely have a way to get out. To his surprise, the ghostly thing curled its lips and said, "What ideas do I have? If I had a way, I would have taught you long ago. Why would I let you suffer so much? No matter what, you're one of us. I'm not a psychopath. Why would I watch you get struck by lightning for nothing? Lin rolled his eyes speechlessly. To be honest, he seriously suspected that the ghostly thing was a psychopath. Although he did not ask about it, he was sure that it had lived for at least 1,000 years. Moreover, it had been struggling at death's door for so long in this half-human, half-ghost appearance. It would be strange if it did not have any psychological problems. But to be honest, after watching for so long, I finally figured out something. The ghostly thing's tone suddenly changed. After all, it was a matter of life and death. It could not do nothing. It was basically a fool's dream for Lin Yi to escape by himself. What's the meaning? Lin Yi immediately became spirited. This place is not to be underestimated. The ghostly thing said, seriously, nonsense. Lin Yi rolled his eyes again. This was the legendary Thunder Burial City. He had been struck by lightning 3 times in a row. His whole body was almost cooked. How could this place be ordinary? I'm not talking nonsense. Don't tell me you've forgotten that although I don't have a physical body right now, I've been nourished in your jade pendant for so long. My primordial spirit has long since recovered to its peak, and it's even more refined than before. However, this place is still able to isolate my divine sense. You know what this means? The ghostly thing's tone was solemn. What do you mean? Lin Yi quickly asked. This means that this isn't a formation at all, because there has never been a formation on Heaven Stage Island that could completely block my divine sense. Even the most profound formation I've seen could only restrict my divine sense at most. It definitely wouldn't be as useless as it is now. The ghostly thing sighed. Then what is this? Lin Yi didn't understand. Since he was in Thunder Burial City, he deduced that there was an extremely powerful formation here that completely blocked out divine senses. That was the most logical logic. However, this deduction was denied by the ghostly thing. With his experience, he couldn't think of any other possibilities. Do you still remember the half-moon lake on the North Island? The ghost asked instead of answering. Of course I remember. Lin Yi nodded immediately. The half-moon lake could be said to be the most shocking thing he had seen since he came to Heaven Stage Island. The whole half-moon lake was the body of the same spirit beast. How terrifying it was. To be honest, when he heard this from the ghost, even with his courage and temperament, Lin Yi could not help but feel his legs turn to jelly. Before that, he had even fought with the humanoid puppet created by the ghost, and even won the 10,000-year tree crystal. In retrospect, it was simply incredible. At that time, only the ghost could scare the spirit beast, so he was lucky enough to escape. Otherwise, even 10,000 Lin Yi would have died in it. The trip to the South Island let Lin Yi see the power of the spirit beast clan. Not to mention the ghost, the former azure dragon, the vermilion bird was already standing at the top of the spirit beast clan. Later, he saw the 5 poison flood dragon and the giant electric eel, which were beyond the sea-splitting stage. However, the most shocking thing to him was still the half-moon lake. So far, Lin Yi did not know the specific strength of the half-moon lake, but he thought it was not much weaker than the powerful spirit beasts on the South Island. Now that he thought about it, there was such a hidden existence in the back mountain of the North Island. Senior, why do you suddenly mention this? Lin Yi was a little confused, but then his expression changed, and the corner of his mouth began to twitch. No way. When I was in that guy's body, my divine sense was as useless as it is now. This is the only time, the ghost said faintly. F***CK. Lin Yi was so shocked that he almost fell to the ground. When he looked around again, his expression suddenly became unnatural. He gasped and said, Senior, do you mean the entire Thunder Burial City is the same as the half-moon lake, a super spirit beast that has become a spirit? I didn't say that. You're just making a wild guess. Do you think it's possible for such a large basin to be a spirit beast? The ghost said disapprovingly. Since it's possible for the Half Moon Lake, of course it's possible for the Thunder Burial City. Lin, he said firmly. No, they are completely different. The real body of the Half Moon Lake is actually the giant fir tree in the middle, and the surrounding Half Moon Lake is just a derivative of its huge roots. Therefore, it is a real life form. As long as it has enough opportunities, it will naturally become a spirit. However, look at the Thunder Burial City. Does it look like a life form? The ghost asked. This doesn't seem like it. Linny shook his head. It was understandable that the giant fir tree had become a spirit, but if the Thunder Burial City, which was made of soil and stone, had also become a spirit, then his worldview and outlook on life would really collapse. Lin Yi was stunned for a moment. Then he quickly asked, "But how do you explain this situation according to what you said? Your divine sense will only lose its effect when it enters the body of a powerful creature, right?" You can say that. That's why I speculate that although this place is different from the Half Moon Lake, there should be some similarities. Don't you think the resentment in the surroundings is a little too strong? The ghost asked. It is indeed too strong. Even a top-notch thunder-type spirit beast, like the Thunder Dragon, shouldn't be able to release its resentment out of nowhere and fill this place with it, right? Unless, Lin, he said hesitantly. Unless what? The ghost asked. Chapter 4907. Speaking of malicious spirits, aren't I a ready-made malicious spirit? It's just that I don't usually harm people. The ghostly thing chuckled. Lin, he was rendered speechless. However, he soon understood what the ghostly thing meant. He asked in surprise, "Senior, what do you mean?" "A primordial spirit. Although we're not inside a living creature like the Half Moon Lake, we're inside a gigantic primordial spirit. That's the only explanation," the ghostly thing said in a firm tone. "That makes sense." Linny nodded. First, the ghostly thing's divine sense was ineffective. Then, there was the strong resentment in the surroundings. This seemed to be the only explanation. Then he asked curiously, what kind of thing can have such a gigantic primordial spirit? Can it cover the entire Thunder Burial City? Although Lin Yi did not know much about primordial spirits, he knew some basic knowledge. For example, a primordial spirit would usually maintain its original appearance. Even if it did not, it would only condense into a cloud of ghostly mist like the ghostly thing. Although it was not impossible for it to disperse in all directions, wouldn't that increase the risk of the primordial spirit being destroyed? It was difficult for a primordial spirit to exist out of thin air. Even the ghostly thing, the former Azure Dragon, was on the verge of death. Without the support of a physical body, it would be like a tree, without roots or water, without a source. It would only dissipate bit by bit. However, if the primordial spirit was gigantic, it would only speed up the process. What's the most common thing in this place? The ghostly thing asked. Since this is Thunder Burial City, it's only natural that the number of dead thunder attribute spirit beasts is the most. At this point, Lin Yi suddenly thought of something, and he asked, "Senior, are you saying that this primordial spirit is a dead thunder attribute spirit beast?" "That's right. Judging from the looks of it, it's not just one or two primordial spirits. It's a strange existence that has gathered countless primordial spirits of thunder attribute spirit beasts. This is a vengeful spirit, primordial spirit." The ghostly thing said with certainty, "A vengeful spirit, primordial spirit." Linny was horrified. An evil primordial spirit that had gathered the resentment of countless thunder attribute spirit beasts. Just thinking about it made his scalp tingle. That's the only explanation. Perhaps it was only the soul of a certain lightning spirit beast in the beginning. However, if that's the case, it wouldn't have been able to last long. Thus, It could only devour the souls of other lightning spirit beasts and grow stronger. That's why it became what it is today. It really is a monster. The ghostly thing sighed. But if it's just a vengeful spirit, why can it use lightning to strike me? Lin Yi could not help but wonder. Logically speaking, aside from spiritual sense, a primordial spirit could not use any offensive or defensive martial techniques. Naturally, lightning was no exception. I was also curious about this problem at first, so I didn't think about it. But I just thought that if I can find a temporary host, even if it's just a vengeful spirit, I can use the host's power when he was alive. I can find the corpse of any thunder spirit beast here, and I can use the power of thunder, the ghostly thing said. So that's how it is. Lin Yi suddenly understood. After being stunned for a moment, he suddenly thought of something. With a strange expression, he asked, "If I die, Senior, will you do the same?" "Guess." The ghostly thing laughed and did not give a direct answer. "I guess you will." Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Although they were familiar with each other, he did not dare to flatter the ghostly thing too much. Don't forget that when they first met, this guy had the idea of taking over his body. Once he died, this guy would definitely not sit still and wait for death. It was almost inevitable that it would take over his body. To expect this guy to regard his body as something sacred and inviolable was simply an idiot in the eyes of the ghostly thing. But then again, Lin Yi did not expect such a thing to happen. If he really died, everything would have nothing to do with him. Being able to let this ghostly thing borrow his body could be considered as a benefit to him. After all, one should not let the goodies flow into one's field. All right, enough nonsense. You know what to do next, right? The ghostly thing returned to the topic. Of course. Lin Yi nodded in a deep voice. Since he had confirmed that this was not a formation, there was no so-called formation. There was only one way to leave this place, and that was to find the corpse that the vengeful spirit was temporarily residing in and destroy it. There was no other way. The lingering resentment in the surroundings was getting stronger, which meant that the fourth lightning strike was not far away. Although he had withstood 3 lightning strikes in a row, Lin Yi still did not have the slightest confidence that he could face the 4th and 5th lightning strikes. This was because he could tell from the vengeful spirit's behavior that the stronger the resentment, the stronger the lightning. Therefore, Lin Yi had to race with the ghostly thing. He had to find the ghostly thing before it launched a stronger attack. Only then would he have a chance of survival. Otherwise, he would definitely die today. However, it was easier said than done. Putting aside what he should do after finding the ghostly thing, it was extremely difficult to find the corpse that the ghostly thing was residing in. His vision was blocked, and his divine sense was ineffective. He could only search with his feet. Under such circumstances, finding a corpse in Thunder Burial City was easier said than done. It was no different from finding a needle in a haystack. However, Lin Yi had no other choice. This was the only way. Even if he had to kneel, he could only grit his teeth and crawl. Otherwise, he would die. After searching for a while, Lin Yi suddenly stopped. There was a white skeleton under his feet. It seemed to belong to some kind of bulky dog-type spirit beast, but he was not sure what kind of spirit beast it was. Lin Yi only took a glance at it before continuing to explore. This skeleton could not possibly be the host of the vengeful spirit. After all, it had been dead for a long time and had rotted into a pile of bones. Some of the bones even showed signs of weathering. Putting aside the question of whether the vengeful spirit could still reside in it, even if it did, it would not be able to move, let alone anything else. In addition, there was another important reason. The vengeful spirit, Yuan Shen's strength, was largely limited by its host strength when it was alive. It was impossible for an ordinary thunder-type spirit beast to unleash that kind of purple lightning just now. Only the few thunder-type spirit beasts that stood at the top had a chance. As a result, instead of saying that he was looking for a lightning beast's body, it would be more accurate to say that he wasn't looking for a normal lightning beast's body. His target range was very limited, and there was an 80 to 90% chance that it would be a lightning eagle or a lightning dragon. Chapter 49:08. Although they looked shocking, they were all ordinary thunder-type spirit beasts. Perhaps they could cause trouble in the outside world, but if they wanted to be chosen as a host by the vengeful spirit, primordial spirit, they were obviously not qualified. While he was exploring, another bolt of purple lightning struck down from above. He was already prepared. He waved his hand and struck again. What happened next was a repeat of the crazy scene from before. Fortunately, he was a little surprised. This time, the purple lightning was not much stronger than before. With the previous experience, he was able to successfully resist it. Of course, he looked very miserable, but he did not suffer many substantial injuries. Could it be that this is its limit? Linny was suddenly happy. The lightning tempering had made him a lot stronger than when he came in. Not only had the power of the lightning become stronger, but even his body had become more resistant to electricity. With his current state, if he walked out, let alone a normal lightning tribulation, he would be able to resist 5 times the lightning tribulation without batting an eyelid. 10 times the lightning tribulation would at most make him groan. After all, he had endured at least 50 times the lightning tribulation, especially the last 2 times. It was estimated that it was nearly 100 times. It seems to be the case. The power of its purple lightning is already comparable to a mountain opening stage master. It is impossible for it to be stronger than this. The ghostly thing agreed. Why is that? If it is really a top-level thunder-type spirit beast, it is not strange for it to be above the mountain opening stage, right? Linny was puzzled. The strength of top-level thunder-type spirit beasts like the thunder dragon and the lightning eagle would not be much weaker than the top-level masters of the other spirit beast clans. Otherwise, no one would look at the thunder-type spirit beasts seriously. In other words, even if the strength of the powerful existence among them was not comparable to the 4 top elders, the strength of the earth opening stage was at the very least. It's not strange, but you have to know that even if the vengeful spirit's primordial soul is attached to their corpses, it's impossible for it to display all of its strength when it was alive. It's bound to be damaged, and it's very normal for it to fall by a realm. Spirit beasts at the earth opening stage can only display the strength of the mountain opening stage in its hands, and it's very difficult to be stronger than this, the ghost explained. So that's how it is. Senior, you should have told me earlier. I've been so worried for so long. He finally let out a sigh of relief. His nerves had been stretched taut since just now. He really thought that he was not far from death this time. However, after listening to the ghost's words, he could finally put his heart back into his stomach. How can I guarantee this kind of thing? Even if its strength is reduced by a great realm, what if the corpse turns out to be at the sea-splitting stage? Wouldn't you still die, then? The ghostly thing laughed in schadenfreude. Aren't sea-splitting stage cultivators capable of fighting over the 4 grand elders of your spirit beast clans? How could there be so many sea-splitting stage cultivators? Senior, don't lie to me. He curled his lips and said, there aren't many sea-splitting stage spirit beasts, but who told you that there aren't any thunder attribute spirit beasts? They used to be a powerful existence in the past. If it weren't for the appearance of the Spirit Beast King, they would have met a similar fate as the Ghost-Eyed Eagle King. Most of them were forced to hole up in this thunderous plain island. Perhaps they would have had a share of the 4 grand elders, the ghostly thing said with a sigh. In that case, the Spirit Beast King has simply reshuffled the power structure of your Spirit Beast clan. Linny sighed with heartfelt emotion. Nonsense! It's the only one in history to be able to forcibly unite all the spirit beasts into one clan. this kind of matter is only a trivial matter in its eyes, the ghostly thing said in a deliberately indifferent manner. It didn't realize that its tone had unconsciously changed as soon as it mentioned the spirit beast king. Lin secretly smiled when he heard this. The spirit beast king really deserved its reputation if it could make this ghostly thing admire it from the bottom of its heart. While the two of them were communicating with each other through their souls, Lin was still rapidly exploring the surroundings. There were already no less than 100 skeletons under his feet. If it weren't for the current critical situation, Lin would have definitely slowed down his pace and widened his horizons. This place was simply a Thunder Tribute Spirit Beast Museum. There were all kinds of strange and bizarre things. After a while, an incomparably huge amount of resentment was accompanied by a loud rumble of purple lightning. Lin threw out a lightning strike to contend with it. Then he once again broke into a dance in the air. To be honest, he had already started to get used to it. The time between the beginning and the end is getting shorter and shorter. It seems that we'll soon find the master. The ghostly thing began to excitedly rub its palms together. Even if we find it, we might not be able to defeat it. Senior, why are you so excited? Lin couldn't help but feel a little speechless. Although there should be no problem with his previous deduction, the problem was, what should he do after he found the opponent? Even if the opponent only had the strength of the mountain opening stage, he wouldn't be able to defeat it as a mere early-stage, mysterious ascending stage. After thinking about it, Lin felt that the only good news at the moment was that he was becoming more and more resistant to electricity. The opponent should not be able to kill him in a short period of time. Otherwise, if it was a mountain opening stage being of other attributes, he might be killed in a second. Of course, if that was really the case, he wouldn't foolishly take the initiative to find the opponent. Instead, he would only run as far away as he could. He didn't dare to be caught by the opponent. Why can't I defeat it? The ghostly thing disagreed. It curled its lips and said, "It's not a real mountain opening stage, spirit beast. At most, it's a controlled corpse. It's full of flaws. It's perfect for you to practice your moves." Really? Linny was stunned. From what the ghostly thing said, the opponent was nothing to be afraid of. However, no matter what, it was at least a mountain opening stage being. Was it really that easy to deal with? Take a guess. The ghostly thing chuckled. Guess your sister. Linny was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. He really didn't know what to say to such a fellow. He could only continue to search in silence. Whether the ghostly thing was telling the truth or not, he would find out once he tried it. After that, there were another 2 bolts of purple lightning. With Lin Yi's rare body talent, although he could be reborn every time he was hit, he still couldn't endure being struck continuously. If he was hit a few more times, he might overload his body and die from heart paralysis. However, fortunately, he finally found an extremely blurry and huge shadow in front of him. Lin instantly felt that something was different because the opponent was moving. At the moment, they were only about 100 feet apart. Due to the heavy fog, Lin couldn't see the opponent's face at all. The first thought that appeared in his mind was, is this dead or alive? Chapter 49:09. However, if it was alive, it meant that it was a thunder-type spiritual beast that was about to die. It was very likely that it would trigger the thunder burial ritual soon. Should he still rush forward? Lin only hesitated for a moment before he heard the alarm of the jade pendant. Without even looking at it, he subconsciously activated his extreme butterfly steps and dodged to the side. Boom! This time, it was not purple lightning that fell, but a giant claw. To be precise, it should be a giant bone claw. At first glance, it looked like an eagle's claw, but when he raised his head slightly, he could see that it was not an eagle's body at all. Its huge and ferocious head was suspended in the air, and its eye sockets were emitting two terrifying purple lights. Thunder Dragon! This time, Lin Yi almost blurted out. He had never seen a thunder dragon before, but there was no doubt that the giant beast in front of him was a thunder dragon. Moreover, it was a thunder dragon that had been dead for a long time. There was not much dry skin and flesh on its body, and white bones could be seen everywhere. The strong death aura really made one's scalp tingle. It seems that my previous guess was right. The spirit of resentment is controlling this thunder dragon's corpse. Hee, kid, your chance to show off your skills is here. The ghost did not miss the opportunity and laughed. Damn, Lin, he was simply full of vulgarities. Previously, he had been struck by purple lightning so many times that both his spirit and body were already exhausted. Now, he had to face such a huge thunder dragon alone. Wasn't this a trap? Even if this was just a thunder dragon's corpse controlled by the spirit of resentment, it was still comparable to the existence of the mountain opening period. It was easy for the ghost to say, but the problem was that it was not so easy to deal with. However, in order to survive, he could only fight to the end. It seemed that because so many lightning strikes had not killed Lin Yi before, the thunder dragon's corpse actually gave up on the purple lightning and directly launched an attack with its huge body. After a sharp and ear-piercing roar, two giant bone claws slapped down at the same time. Lin Yi's eyelids twitched. If he was hit by this attack, he would definitely be smashed into minced meat. What was even more difficult to deal with was that although this fellow's huge body was close at hand, it appeared very ghostly due to the cover of the surrounding fog. The attack came without warning, and if one were to observe it purely with the naked eye, by the time they saw its bone claws, they might have already been smashed to death. Fortunately, Lin Yi had the jade pendant as an early warning, and with the help of the extreme butterfly's subtle steps, he could successfully avoid the attack. Otherwise, it would be good if he could escape, let alone fight against it. Dodging two bone claws consecutively, without waiting for Lin Yi to heave a sigh of relief, a bone tail swept towards him from the side. There was no need to experience it personally, just looking at the momentum was enough to make one's scalp go numb. This tailbone covered an extremely large area, and it almost completely sealed off all of Lin Yi's escape routes. In a moment of desperation, Lin Yi hastily shot out his Junqi without any regard for the price. His feet suddenly exerted force, and his whole body instantly soared into the sky. Hiss! Seeing this, the thunder dragon's dried corpse let out a terrifying roar, opened its huge mouth, and bit towards Lin Yi, who was in midair. Seeing this, Lin Yi was scared out of his wits. At this time, he was in midair, and he didn't even have a foothold to borrow strength from. So how could he dodge? At this critical moment of life and death, he watched helplessly as the thunder dragon's huge mouth got closer and closer. If he was bitten, Lin Yi's body would instantly be smashed to pieces. After all, the thunder dragon was a powerful existence that stood at the top of the thunder attribute spirit beasts. Not to mention its powerful power of thunder and lightning, its physical combat strength alone was already not to be underestimated. Even if this thunder dragon's dried corpse only retained 30% of its strength when it was alive, it was enough to kill Lin Yi without a burial place. However, at this critical moment, when an ordinary person's mind would have gone blank, Lin Yi's mind turned even faster than usual. Unexpectedly, he thought of a clever way to escape death. Taking advantage of the moment when the thunder dragon opened its mouth to bite him, genuine chi suddenly shot out from his back, and he took the initiative to send himself into the thunder dragon's huge mouth. If this was a living thunder dragon, Lin Yi would definitely not dare to do this even if he was beaten to death, because sending himself into the thunder dragon's mouth was basically suicide. Fortunately, this was only a thunder dragon's dried corpse, so as long as he could avoid being bitten by its sharp teeth entering the Thunder Dragon's mouth was not a big problem. In fact, this gave Lin Yi an unprecedented advantage, because after he entered the Thunder Dragon's mouth, the Thunder Dragon's dried corpse suddenly found that it could not hit this human bug. Oh, boy, you really are a fighting genius. Even with the ghostly creature's foresight, it couldn't help but praise him. It clicked its tongue and said, "Being a human is such a waste of your combat talent. How good would it be if you were a spirit beast? If you had the powerful physical body of our dragon clan, you would be able to challenge the vermilion bird." At this time, Lin Yi did not have the time to pay attention to it. Entering the Thunder Dragon's mouth in a desperate situation, although this time he had the absolute advantage, it was still a big problem to defeat the Thunder Dragon. He was only a mysterious Ascended Realm early stage master, and really did not have any means to deal with such a level of Thunder Dragon's dried corpse. Right now, the most lethal lightning strike obviously could not be used. If it hit the Thunder Dragon's body, it would probably not even be able to scratch an itch. After all, the Thunder Dragon was the real expert in playing with electricity. Its ability to withstand electricity was naturally far above that of a human like Lin Yi. As for the remaining other means, the most powerful was only the 5 elements killing chi. If Lin Yi was given enough time, he might be able to create an even stronger 8 elements martial skill, but unfortunately, he obviously did not have this condition right now. Whatever. Lin Yi did not have time to continue to hesitate. He raised his hand and sent out the most powerful 5 elements killing chi directly towards the brain of the Thunder Dragon's dried corpse. He knew that attacking other places was useless. Only this place was most likely to hide the vengeful spirit Yuan Shun. Boom! The 5 elements killing chi instantly pierced through a thick layer of white bones, and the huge brain cavity appeared in front of Lin Yi without any obstruction. Impressively, there was a strange purple mist entrenched inside. Lin Yi's body suddenly trembled. He only felt a monstrous resentment rushing towards him. This was almost solid. Caught off guard, his whole body was sent flying. Fortunately, in a moment of desperation, he grabbed the bone next to him. Otherwise, he would have failed and had to start all over again. Could it be that this is the vengeful spirit Yuan Shun? Lin Yi's heart moved. He subconsciously raised his hand and sent out another 5 elements killing chi, but he regretted it as soon as he sent it out. Since the opponent was a Yuan Shen, the 5 elements killing chi was completely useless against it. Sure enough, the 5 elements killing chi directly passed through the strange purple mist. There was not even the slightest sound. It was completely useless. Chapter 49:10. After communicating with the ghostly thing for so long, Lin Yi immediately knew that it wasn't a voice from reality. Instead, it was a message that the vengeful spirit had imprinted in his mind through divine sense. Thinking of this, Lin Yi suddenly had a flash of inspiration. It wasn't as if he didn't have any methods to deal with this kind of primordial spirit. Don't forget that when he first met this ghostly thing, he didn't immediately start a friendly conversation with it. Lin Yi wasn't in the mood to talk nonsense with this vengeful spirit that couldn't even speak clearly. He summoned his alchemic fire without hesitation. This thing was the most effective against primordial spirits. The alchemic fire instantly entered the strange purple mist. However, the scene that Lin Yi expected to destroy the opponent's primordial spirit didn't happen. At first glance, it seemed that the opponent didn't react at all. How is this possible? Lin Yi immediately frowned. This can't be. Could it be that the alchemic fire has no effect on primordial spirits? However, Lin Yi immediately knew that he was wrong. The strange purple mist that was originally calm suddenly became extremely violent. The lightning dragon's dried corpse that was under its control directly used its claws and tail to smash its huge, hideous head into pieces in an instant. Lin Yi lost his footing and fell from the sky. He was terrified. Fortunately, The jade pendant warned him in time, and he dodged in time. Otherwise, he would have most likely been smashed into pieces like the lightning dragon's dried corpse. From the looks of it, the alchemic fire wasn't completely ineffective against it. Otherwise, it wouldn't have suddenly become so violent and even allowed the lightning dragon's dried corpse to mutilate itself. Of course, it's effective. However, the level of your alchemic fire is too low. It can't destroy it directly, but it can still hurt it. The ghostly thing that had been silent for a long time suddenly spoke. Then what should I do now? Should I still use my alchemic fire to burn it? Lin, he asked, as he dodged the lightning dragon's dried corpse that suddenly fell to the ground. At this time, after the self-mutilation, the lightning dragon's dried corpse didn't even have its head anymore. The strange purple mist had completely separated from its head and was gradually dissipating into the air. It was not destroyed. Instead, it had reverted to its original form as a vengeful spirit. The resentment that shrouded the entire Thunder Burial City was its true form. If you want to burn it, then burn it. However, it won't be of much use. It will only cause it a little pain. If you want to rely on your pill flame to burn it to death, who knows how long it will take? The ghostly thing curled its lips. Then what should I do? Linny frowned helplessly. He could do nothing but stare helplessly as he watched the purple mist gradually disappear into the surrounding resentment. Let's just watch the show. You've been playing for so long, it's time for me to exercise a little. The ghostly thing chuckled, and before Linny could react, he suddenly roared, "Octagonal deity, get out here!" An unparalleled pressure pressed down on all four directions, and Linny could clearly feel that the vengeful spirits around him had been shaken off a bit, while the purple mist in the distance was trembling nonstop, as if there was an invisible suction force pulling it over. Under this strong suction force, the strange purple mist was unable to resist at all. Moreover, what surprised Linny even more was that as the strange purple mist was pulled over, the huge amount of resentment in the surroundings rapidly weakened and soon disappeared without a trace. Not only that, but the thick mist in all directions also gradually dissipated. His vision suddenly became clear, and he could clearly see dozens of feet away. Even his divine sense could be used again. Linny was overjoyed. It was as if a drowning man had finally seen the light of day. He could finally take a breath of relief. The suffocating feeling of being shrouded in layers of mist was unbearable, and his chest felt like it was going to explode if this went on. "Senior, if you have such a powerful method, why didn't you use it earlier? Instead, you made me fight to death with a thunder dragon's corpse. Are you deliberately teasing me?" Lin, he couldn't help but complain with a wry smile. "Who's teasing you?" "I don't have the time to do that," the ghostly thing sneered. "Isn't that the case? I fought desperately for a long time, but in the end, it was useless. Senior, you casually roared, and it was subdued. Why didn't you do anything earlier?" Lin, he curled his lips, casually roared. The ghostly thing was immediately amused. It chuckled and said, "Boy, you really don't know what's good for you. Do you think it's so easy to casually roar with such a powerful divine sense? Let me tell you, using this move will greatly damage my vitality. I've been preparing it since I came in. After all, this is the vengeful spirit's primordial spirit that has gathered the souls of countless thunder attribute spirit beasts. Do you really think it's so easy to deal with?" Lin, he was slightly stunned. Only now did he realize that the ghostly thing seemed to be a little weak. It seemed that it had really damaged its vitality. A move that could suppress the vengeful spirit's primordial spirit in one fell swoop was really costly. As the two of them spoke, the strange purple mist had been completely captured. However, it was no longer a ball of mist like before. Instead, it revealed some appearances of spirit beasts. However, one moment it was a dragon, The next moment it was a hawk, the next moment it was a tiger, and the next moment it was a leopard. You will all die. The vengeful spirit's, primordial spirit's voice was once again imprinted in Lin Yi's mind. Hee, that's good. I want to see how you'll kill us. The ghostly thing sneered when it heard this. Then, as if a giant hand had appeared out of thin air, the vengeful spirit's, primordial spirit, let out a heart-wrenching scream. The purple light around it dimmed significantly. Please let me go. The vengeful spirit's, primordial spirit couldn't take it anymore. Like a wild beast that had just learned to speak, it began to beg for mercy with great difficulty. This fellow is quite tactful. Lin Yi couldn't help but laugh. He thought that since the other party was formed from the countless dead thunder attribute spirit beasts, it would be an incomparably fierce and violent existence. He didn't think that it would be able to speak with reason. He didn't think that it would so quickly open its mouth to beg for mercy. It's very normal. This fellow has fused with too many vengeful spirits. Although its strength is unbelievably strong, at the same time, because of the conflict between the various vengeful spirits, its intelligence is greatly affected. It's already good enough that it can still speak the human language. It doesn't know how to play any tricks. The ghostly thing explained. So that's how it is. No wonder this fellow's movements were so slow when it first attacked me. It took such a long time between the two bolts of lightning. If it was just a little bit faster, I wouldn't have been able to react and would have been struck to death by its lightning. Lin Yi nodded. Chapter 49:11. Lin Yi was purely relying on his beastly instincts to fight. Otherwise, even if an ordinary cultivator was controlling the lightning dragon mummy, Lin Yi reckoned that it would be difficult for him to find an opportunity to attack. After all, the difference in strength between them was just too great. It's fortunate that this is the case. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to hold on for so long. You wouldn't have been able to hold on until I used the octagonal spirit capture. The ghostly thing chuckled. Then, another powerful aura descended on the origin soul of the vengeful specter's head. It said coldly, "Behave yourself, or you will die. Behave." The origin soul of the vengeful specter was unable to move and did not dare to resist. "Tell me, why did you attack us?" The ghostly thing asked in a deep voice. Eat. The origin soul of the vengeful specter stammered. Lin Yi was stunned. He immediately asked with his divine sense, "You want to eat my primordial spirit?" "Yes, I want to eat every time I come in." The origin soul of the vengeful specter admitted. You're a foodie." Lin Yi shook his head speechlessly. He finally understood that the lightning burial city was the nest of the origin soul of the vengeful specter. No matter who broke into the city, be it a lightning-type spiritual beast or a human cultivator, they were all food for the origin soul of the vengeful specter. If it could not eat continuously, the origin soul of the vengeful specter would continue to weaken and eventually die. All right, now that everything is clear, it's up to you to decide whether to kill it or not, the ghostly thing said indifferently. "You want me to decide?" Lin Yi was stunned. He looked at the trembling origin soul of the vengeful specter and shook his head. There's no benefit in killing it. It might even cause some changes. "Kid, you're quite thoughtful." The ghostly being chuckled in agreement. "However, your concerns aren't completely unreasonable. Even though this thing has low intelligence, it's still the ruler of Thunder Burial City. It's hard to say if there'll be a chain reaction if it's destroyed." "That's right, but I can't let it go that easily. It hit me so many times I'm almost burnt to a crisp. I should at least pay some medical fees." Lin Yi said with a playful smile on his lips. "Medical fees? What is it?" The vengeful spirit Yuan Shen suddenly asked. This guy is quite curious. Lin Yi couldn't help but smile. When he first found out about the vengeful spirit primordial spirit, his heart was filled with fear. He was even helpless against this ghostly thing. After that, he was struck by lightning like a stray dog. But now that he had completely subdued the vengeful spirit, primordial spirit, his impression of the vengeful spirit, primordial spirit, was completely different. Not only was he not afraid, he even felt that the vengeful spirit, primordial spirit, primordial spirit, primordial spirit, primordial spirit, primordial spirit was quite interesting. At this time, because the ghostly thing was no longer deliberately suppressing it, although the vengeful spirit was much weaker than before, its state could finally be stabilized, and it maintained the appearance of a lightning dragon. According to what the ghostly thing had said, this fellow's original primordial spirit was most likely a thunder dragon. Only such an extremely powerful being could leave behind a primordial spirit that could devour the primordial spirits of other thunder attribute spirit beasts after its death, and thus develop step by step to its current astonishing stage. Medical fees. I'll pay for the medical fees. The vengeful spirit seemed to have understood something. It pointed in all directions and stammered, "These are all for you? Oh." Linny glanced around and instantly choked. His expression was extremely interesting. At this moment, he finally had a chance to take a good look at the legendary Thunder Burial City. At this moment, without the dense fog of the vengeful spirit, he could see everything clearly. In the beginning, Lin Yi had expected that even if the ground wasn't filled with Xian cultivating grass, he would at least be able to find Xian cultivating grass easily. In the end, after taking a look around, his heart instantly sank to the bottom. This place was a barren wasteland. There wasn't even a single blade of grass to be seen, let alone mystic raising grass. All he could see were white bones. The so-called Thunder Burial City was just a beautified name. In Lin Yi's eyes, it was more appropriate to call this place a mass grave. "You're saying that you're giving these bones to me as medical fees?" Lin Yi looked at the vengeful spirit, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. "Yes, I haven't finished eating them." The vengeful spirit quickly replied. This meant that there were still some spirit remnants left on the bones. It didn't absorb all of them, so it naturally handed them over. To it, these were probably the most precious things. To a certain extent, this vengeful spirit was actually quite generous. Unfortunately, Lin Yi really didn't have the fortune to enjoy such generosity. If there were some powerful thunder attribute spiritual beasts that had just died, they would still be of some value to him. However, perhaps because of the thunder burial, most of the corpses in front of him had already turned into white bones. They wouldn't be of much use to refine pills or forge weapons. They were only of little value. Lin Yi casually took some of the corpses of top-notch thunder attribute spiritual beasts such as thunder dragons and lightning eagles. After all, he didn't need to put in any effort. With a single thought, he could put them into the space in the jade pendant. Even if they were of little value, it was better than returning empty-handed. "Sigh, I've made a wasted trip." Lin Yi sighed helplessly. He didn't even see a trace of the profound, nurturing grass. Instead, he was struck by the vengeful spirit for nothing. He was really suffering. "Kid, you should be content. Let's not talk about other things. The power of thunder in your body has improved by leaps and bounds. It's far better than 10 years of hard work. This kind of benefit isn't any worse than the profound, nurturing grass. On the contrary, I've really suffered a great loss this time. I didn't gain anything at all. Instead, I suffered a great loss for nothing." The ghost thing smiled bitterly. "Senior, since this fellow can grow stronger by devouring other thunder attribute spiritual beasts, primordial spirits, you should be able to too, right?" Lin Yi suddenly had an idea. "I can, but do you think my brain is flooded with water?" The ghost thing curled its lips disapprovingly. "What do you mean?" Lin Yi was confused. If I devour other primordial spirits, wantonly of course, I can grow as fast as it. I can even devour it in one gulp. However, at that time, I won't be me anymore. I'll be the next stupid, vengeful spirit. You understand? The ghost thing was speechless. That's serious? Lin, he was slightly shocked. In his understanding, primordial spirits were the same as vital energy. They were also a type of energy. Since it was energy, it could naturally be replenished in the most direct way. He didn't expect this result. Chapter 49:12. That's not worth it. Rather than that, it's better to slowly nurture it myself. Linny nodded and left Thunder Burial City. It wasn't until he climbed up the cliff that the ghost completely let go of the vengeful spirit. It spoke in a meaningful tone. Consider this a good deed. Who knows, it might come in handy in the future. Huh. Lin, he couldn't help but ask, you can only enter this place once, and you won't have the chance to come again. Why would it come in handy? Hee, I've heard a rumor from Lei Long. I don't know if it's true or not, but this Thunder Plain Island isn't as simple as it looks. Let's talk about it in the future. I'm going into seclusion now, so don't bother me if there's nothing important. All right. Lin, he shook his head helplessly and didn't pursue the matter. He left in high spirits and returned in low spirits. He hadn't even seen a trace of the Xian nurturing grass after so long. He was a little dispirited, and he was exhausted. He wasn't in the mood for it. He smiled bitterly as he looked at his tattered clothes. Lin treated his wounds and changed into a clean set of clothes. He then began to search for Xinyan and the others. They should be looking for the Xian nurturing grass. If he was lucky, they might have already found it. However, before he could go far, he suddenly stopped in his tracks. A moment later, he saw the figure of a somewhat familiar woman in the distance, stumbling in his direction. Lin Yi took a closer look and was shocked when he saw the figure. It was Enai Kaiwe, although she was wearing a veil. It was easy to tell from her clothes and temperament that it was Enai Kaiwe. Didn't this girl leave? Why did she come back? Enai Kaiwe had been running and crawling along the way. Her flustered appearance didn't match the third fairy at all. She was overjoyed when she saw Lin Yi. She quickly yelled, "Help, young hero! Someone's trying to rob me." Lin Yi paused as he saw a figure approaching Enai Kaiwe from behind. It was a ferocious-looking man in black, holding a long and a short machete in his hands. It was a strange sight. Although Enai Kaiwe was stumbling, she was still a Mystic Ascension early-stage master. Her running speed was also extremely fast. In a few breaths, she had already reached Lin Yi's side and hid behind him without saying a word. At the same time, the man in black quickly caught up. He didn't even look at Lin Yi and stared at Enai Kaiwe fiercely. "Little girl, where's Brother Chong? Why isn't he back yet? Why are you fine? Hurry up and let me search your body to see if there's anything you shouldn't have on you. Only then can you prove your innocence." The man in black said as he put away the machete in his hand. He reached out to touch Enai Tsayue's body. From beginning to end, he didn't put Lin Yi in his eyes. It was as if Lin Yi was air in his eyes. He didn't even have the qualifications to look at him. Lin Yi had seen many arrogant geniuses, but it was rare to see someone as arrogant as him. "Young hero, save me! Young hero, save me!" Enai Kaiwe was very clever. She dodged back and forth behind Lin Yi. She simply stopped running and used Lin Yi as a shield. Where did this blind boy come from? Get out of my way. The black-clothed man finally opened his mouth and cursed. With a twist of his wrist, the curved blade flashed, and he pressed it against Lin Yi's chest with lightning speed. "I'll count to 3, or you die." Lin Yi looked at the black-clothed man calmly. He didn't want to stick his nose into other people's business. After all, he had only met Enai Kaiwe once, and they weren't friends at all. He didn't want to be someone's shield for no reason. He wasn't a fool who couldn't move his legs at the sight of a beautiful woman. However, now that the man's machete was on his chest, it was unrealistic for him to stay out of it. Moreover, Enai Kaiwe was quite likable. Lin Yi wouldn't completely leave her in the lurch. "Let's talk. What's the matter?" Lin Yi said immediately, "Oh, you're quite arrogant. Who do you think you are? How dare you talk to me like this?" After the man in black was stunned, he suddenly showed his fierceness and said with a murderous look, "1, 2, 3. As soon as the voice fell, the man in black raised his hand without hesitation and was about to slash at Lin Yi. As a result, Enai Kaiwe, who was hiding behind him, suddenly came out and quickly stopped him. "Don't slash! Don't slash! This has nothing to do with him." Lin Yi was about to cripple the man in black, but he couldn't help but smile when he heard this. It seemed that this chick, in addition to being a little silly, had a bit of loyalty. It was commendable that she didn't completely sell me at this time. Seeing Enai Kaiwe blocking in front of him, the man in black suddenly put away his machete. He looked back and forth at Enai Kaiwe and Lin Yi with a surprised face. He pinched his chin and sneered, "I was wondering why you little girl had to run here. It turns out that you have a lover. Tell me, did the two of you conspire to kill Brother Chang?" "Ah." Enai Kaiwe was shocked when she heard this. She turned her head and looked at the inexplicable Lin Yi. She suddenly reacted and waved at the man in black. "No, no, no. It's not me. I didn't want to kill him. What did you say?" The man in black's eyes became sharp. "Ah, no. I mean, he shouldn't be dead yet." Enai Tsayue's words became more and more outrageous. She didn't even finish 2 sentences before she spilled the beans. Lin Yi looked at this scene speechlessly. His forehead was full of cold sweat. He knew this chick's character and IQ. Otherwise, he would really think that she had ulterior motives to make him hate her. To be honest, Lin Yi had now begun to sincerely admire Enai Tsayue's master. Putting aside the fact that he betrothed this chick to Chang Lading, the fact that he was able to teach Enai Kaiwe to become a profound ascending stage master showed that this master was definitely a master. If it was an ordinary person, he would have cried at Enai Tsayue's stupidity. How could he teach her to such an extent? He had misunderstood Enai Kaiwe. In addition to being relatively simple, the main thing was that this chick had no experience in the martial world. So at critical times, she would appear to be stupid. It wasn't really a problem with her IQ. In terms of cultivation talent, Enai Kaiwe was a first-class cultivation genius. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to advance to profound ascending stage at such a young age. Chapter 49:13. No, I don't know if he's dead or not. Enai Kaiwe was so scared that her face turned pale, and she said with a sobbing tone. Hearing this, Lin Yi was completely speechless. Enai Tsayue's words were basically admitting that she had harmed Chang Lading. What was a pig teammate? This was a typical pig teammate. And then again, the other party was a profound ascension early stage master, and she herself was also a profound ascension early stage master. Even if her strength was not as good, she should not be afraid to this extent. Looking at Enai Tsayue's flustered appearance, it was estimated that she had not fought at all. A dignified profound ascension early stage master, facing an opponent of the same level, did not even have the courage to make a move. To be more precise, she did not even have the thought of making a move. This was simply shocking. How did this kind of trash succeed in breaking through to the profound ascension stage? How could those who had spent their entire life's efforts only to stop at the Yuanian great perfection stage feel? From this point of view, Enai Kaiwe was really a strange person. At this moment, a man in gray quickly approached from afar and shouted, "Old Lee, how is it?" The man in black named Old Lee responded and pointed at Lin Yi with his machete. "Old Xiao, this girl and her lover seem to have conspired to kill Brother Chong. What should we do?" "What? Brother Chong was killed by them? This damned adulterous couple." Old Xiao's face suddenly changed. Chong Lading was not only a big brother to the two of them, but also a backer and protective umbrella in the academy. If Chong Lading really died, the two of them would not be in a good situation in the future. After all, they used to be tyrannical and offended a lot of people. They really deserve to die. "Old Xiao, you decide what we should do next. I'll listen to you," Old Lee said immediately. "Of course, we will kill this adulterous couple to avenge Brother Chong." Old Zhao's eyes flashed with killing intent. "Good. 1 blade each. Grandpa will send you 2 on your way." Old Lee grinned and was about to attack Lin Yi and Enai Kaiwe. "Wait." Old Xiao suddenly reached out and stopped him. He stared at Enai Kaiwe lecherously and said, "Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. As long as you know what's good for you, hand over all your good things, and obediently obey me, I can consider letting you live." Enai Kaiwe was frightened by his gaze that seemed to be able to see through her clothes. She quickly hid behind Lin Yi and pushed Lin Yi out. Seeing this, Lin Yi shook his head helplessly. It seemed that he had to take back his previous evaluation. This little girl Ni's loyalty only lasted for a short while, and then she turned around and sold him out again. "Humph, as for a pretty boy lover like you, if you want to live, it depends on what kind of heavenly treasure you can take out. If it's not good enough, haha." A cold light flashed in Old Zhao's eyes. His meaning was self-evident. If it's not good enough, Grandpa will shave off all the flesh on your body and let you taste the feeling of being dismembered by 1,000 cuts. Let me tell you, Grandpa hates pretty boys the most in my life. Old Lee stared at Lin Yi cruelly. "Hee, it seems that you have been hurt by love." "What? Have you been robbed by a pretty boy?" Lin Yi did not pay attention to him at all and asked calmly, "What did you say? What did you, pretty boy, say?" Old Lee suddenly lost control of his emotions and looked like he was about to go berserk on the spot. "You really have been hurt by love." Lin Yi was a little surprised. Such a ferocious-looking man had been hurt by love, and it seemed that the hurt was quite deep. It was really unexpected that he was deeply in love. "I'm going to kill you. That damned pretty boy." Old Lee was about to ruthlessly cut Lin Yi in half. His imposing manner was undeniable. Although he was not at the level of a 3-spirit profound ascending stage expert like Chong Lading, he was obviously a lot stronger than an ordinary profound ascending stage expert. No wonder he did not put Lin Yi in his eyes. However, before Lin Yi could make a move, Old Xiao, who was next to him, knocked away Old Lee's scimitar with his foot. His strength was obviously stronger than Old Lee. No wonder Old Lee let him make the decision. "Calm down. Let this pretty boy take out the thing first. It's not too late for you to kill him," Old Xiao shouted coldly. Only then did Old Lee recover and fiercely put away his scimitar. "Hey, aren't your words insulting my intelligence?" Lin Yi looked at the two of them with black lines on his face. Who would take out the thing after saying this in front of him? Did these two really think that they had the same IQ as that little girl and I? "Haha, I've already said it. Whether you can live or not depends on what kind of treasure you can take out. If you can satisfy us, you naturally won't die." Old Xiao sneered. "After all, it's for the treasure?" Lin Yi dragged out his words and smiled slightly, pretending to be profound. "You two really found the right person. I really have a very good treasure with me. It's on me. Do you want it? Hey, pretty boy, you're tactful. Why don't you quickly hand it over?" Old Xiao and old Li's eyes lit up when they heard this. They could not wait to urge him. Well, it's on me. Why don't you come and get it yourself? That's good, lest I take the opportunity to escape. Isn't it? Lin shrugged. The two of them looked at each other, and old Xiao immediately said with a smile, All right, seeing that you're so tactful, if the treasure is good, I'll be merciful and let you live. Old Li, search him. Okay, pretty boy, you'd better behave yourself. Stand still and don't move. Don't try to play any tricks. Otherwise, I'll dismember you. Old Li grinned and came over to search Lin Yi's body. However, as soon as his hand touched Lin Yi, his whole body suddenly froze and twitched crazily like a sieve. He could not say a word and just broke dancing on the spot. Old Li, what the hell are you doing? Quickly search him. Old Xiao, who was standing behind, did not understand the situation. He frowned and urged Old Li. Seeing that Old Li still did not respond at all, he immediately raised his hand and slapped Old Li impatiently. He scolded, You idiot, why are you so slow? However, before he could finish his words, Old Xiao himself also began to convulse crazily. His face suddenly revealed a look of horror, and he hurriedly launched his martial skill regardless of everything. At the same time, he exerted all his strength to kick Old Li away, and at the same time, he finally rescued himself from the predicament. Chapter 49:14. You, who the hell are you? Old Xiao stared at Lin Yi as if he was facing a formidable enemy. Although he was no longer convulsing from the electric shock, his whole body was still numb. If he had not clenched his teeth and held on, he would have already fallen to the ground. Didn't you just say that you are this girl's lover, little gigolo? Lin Yi faintly smiled. You are teasing me again. And Kai Wei angrily jumped out from behind, but when she was glanced at by old Xiao, she immediately shrank back in fear. A dignified, early-stage, profound, ascending expert only had this little bit of courage. It really made people speechless. Then why is there electricity on your body? Don't tell me you brought some divine weapon? Old Xiao's face was full of fear. He had just stretched out his hand to touch Old Li's shoulder, and the result was that there was immediately a fierce power of thunder and lightning entering his body. Although the intensity was not comparable to the thunder tribulation, it was already fatal to him. He was simply scared out of his wits. Fortunately, his reaction was fast enough to kick Old Li away. Otherwise, he and Old Li would have become two electrocuted corpses. You guess. Lin Yi faintly smiled. That damn thing was in seclusion at this time. Otherwise, it would definitely jump out and sigh. You brat's shameless appearance is quite similar to my charm when I was young. Old Xiao heard this and almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. He pointed at Lin Yi and sneered, Little gigolo, don't be too proud. I don't know what strange things you are hiding on your body, but as long as I don't touch your body, I think there will be no problem. I have at least 100 ways to kill people from a distance. Do you want to try them all? No, I don't have that much time. I am very busy. Lin Yi waved his hand again and again with a troublesome expression. Reckless little gigolo, don't get too carried away. Old Owl was choked by Lin Yi and flew into a rage out of humiliation. Although he was Chang Lading's follower in name, his true strength was not much worse than Chang Lading's. It was just that he did not have any background. Otherwise, he would have been able to become one of the 4 young masters of the nascent soul stage. Now, he was the same as Chang Lading, a rare 3-spirit profound ascending stage expert. No, I'm just telling the truth. I still have to find my companions. I really can't waste my time here with you. Lin Yi's tone was sincere. Old Li, hurry up and kill this gigolo. Old Owl was furious when he heard this, but he did not do it himself. Instead, he quietly took a step back, fearing that he would be electrocuted by Lin Yi again. Thus, he simply let Old Li, this brainless brute, take the lead. As soon as he finished speaking, Old Lee immediately waved his long and short machete and rushed over. He already disliked the gigolo, not to mention that he had just suffered a big loss at the hands of Lin Yi. At this time, how could he think so much? He could not wait to immediately cut Lin Yi into 8 pieces. However, before he could rush to the front of Lin Yi, he saw Lin Yi standing in the same place and casually waved his hand. Immediately, a bucket-thick dark blue lightning instantly erupted from his palm and poured into Old Lee's head. Old Lee did not have the slightest chance to resist. His whole body was emitting black smoke, and his legs collapsed on the ground. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. Seeing this scene, Old Owl, who was already very afraid, almost peed his pants on the spot. His calves and stomach were trembling crazily. If it was not for his strength being far stronger than an ordinary early-stage profound ascending expert, he would not be able to stand at this time and would have been paralyzed on the ground. Even Enai Kaiwe, who was hiding behind Lin Yi, was dumbfounded at this time. She looked back and forth between Lin Yi and the smoking Old Lee as if she had seen a ghost. She could not say a word for a long time. Lin Yi did not take it seriously and clapped his hands. In his heart, he thought that he did not suffer so many lightning strikes in vain. Now, even if the power of his lightning strike was not as extraordinary as before, it was already comparable to a normal lightning tribulation. Using it to deal with an ordinary profound ascending expert, he could kill them with one strike. Only a strong person like Lung Rufin could barely contend with it. To be honest, Lin Yi had actually held back. This time, he only struck for a moment and then stopped. Otherwise, if the duration was a little longer, Old Lee's whole body would have been charred alive by the lightning strike. As for that strike, just now, it was purely the two people's fault. Lin Yi did not use lightning strike at all. Just the extra lightning power in his body had already charred them on the outside and tender on the inside. You, who the hell are you? You can actually trigger lightning tribulation. At this moment, Old Owl's face was pale. He was so scared that he retreated again and again. He staggered and almost fell to the ground. Yes, why can you trigger lightning tribulation? Enai Kaiwe also followed and asked. Hearing this, Lin Yi was speechless and rolled his eyes. Which group was this little girl and I from? She actually joined in the fun. Oh, you can't even see the power of lightning, and you still call it lightning tribulation? Lin Yi glanced at Old Owl, crossed his arms, and said lightly, I see that you still have a bit of cleverness. You should be able to understand the situation, right? If you have anything good on you, quickly take it out for me. If it can enter my eyes, I promise not to strike you to death. Old Owl suddenly wanted to cry, but had no tears. It was obviously the two of them who went to rob others, but in the blink of an eye, it had fallen on his head. How could this be endured? What I'll say the ugly words first. I don't have much patience. You do as you see fit. As Lin Yi spoke, he expressionlessly waved his hand. Don't! Young hero, please spare my life. Old Owl was so scared that his soul almost flew out. He thought that he was about to follow in Old Lee's footsteps. As a result, he shrank his neck and waited for a long time, only to find that nothing had happened. Only then did he embarrassedly smile. He did not dare to neglect and quickly fished out his things. As a result, this guy rummaged inside and out for a long time, and even rummaged out his belongings. In the end, he only fished out a pile of junk. There was nothing good at all. Young hero, I only have these on me. You see, Old Owl embarrassedly handed over a few elixirs with both hands. These were the best things he had on him, but they were only a few useless 6th-grade elixirs. Seeing this, Lin Yi could not help but be a little speechless. This was a living pauper. As a dignified, early-stage, mysterious ascending expert, He only had this little wealth. It was simply a pity. If Lin Yi was a little soft-hearted, he would have helped him instead. Looking at Lin Yi's strange expression, Old Owl could not help but blush. He also felt that this matter was really shameful, but there was really no other way. Not only him, but even Old Li, who was lying on the ground, was also the same. Both of them had some good things that had been plundered by Chang Lading. After all, people under the eaves had to bow their heads. Chapter 49:15. Yes, yes. Old Xiao hurriedly carried Old Li, who was smoking, and hurriedly ran faster than a rabbit, for fear that Lin Yi would suddenly change his mind. Lin Yi didn't even look at the two as he turned to Anai Kaiwe, who was still hiding behind him. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. They're long gone. Why are you still hiding? Ran away. Anai Kaiwe poked her head out to take a look. Sure enough, Old Xiao and Old Li were nowhere to be seen. She finally breathed a sigh of relief, patted her chest, and said, "Great, we finally scared them away. These two people are as fierce as Chang Lading." Lin Yi gave her another sidelong glance. He didn't know whether he should laugh or cry when he was with this Anai girl, but it was also a pleasant surprise at the same time. Every now and then, she'd do something that would make a man's nose bleed, and the main thing was that this girl didn't even know it. "Thank you for helping me, young hero. Otherwise, I would have been in trouble this time." Anai Kaiwe thanked Lin Yi with lingering fear. Fortunately, she knew that Lin Yi was here. Otherwise, she wouldn't even have someone to ask for help. The consequences of falling into the hands of Old Xiao and Old Li would be unimaginable. "I say, what's the matter with you? Didn't I just help you get rid of Chang Lading? How did you get caught up again?" Lin Yi asked with some speechlessness. "These two people are called Old Xiao and Old Li. They are with Chang Lading. When they came in, they were with Chang Lading. But I don't know why, when Chang Lading came to chase me, he seemed to get rid of them." Anai Kaiwe tilted her head and said, "This is normal. Chang Lading covets your mysterious cultivation grass. Of course, the fewer people who know about this, the better. Isn't he giving them a share by bringing them to chase you?" Lin Yi curled his lips. Of course, it was also because Anai Xiaonu didn't have much combat power, so she surrendered with a simple scare. Otherwise, Chang Lading wouldn't have left these two helpers behind if the situation was more troublesome. So that's how it is. I thought they were lost. Anai Kaiwe had a look of sudden realization. Apart from you, I believe that no one who can come here will get lost easily. You can rest assured about this. Lin Yi couldn't help but laugh. "Is that so?" Anai Kaiwe was stunned for a moment. She didn't realize that Lin Yi was teasing her. Instead, she nodded in agreement. Lin Yi shook his head speechlessly. This little chick, Anai, was really silly to a certain level. He could only continue to ask, "They chased you just because they met? Do you have a deep grudge against them? Otherwise, they wouldn't be so irreconcilable, right?" Anai Kaiwe was the third fairy, and she was also Chang Lading's cultivation partner in name. As Chang Lading's followers, they shouldn't have attacked her rashly. After I met them, they didn't want to catch me at first. They only asked me where Chang Lading went. In the end, I accidentally let it slip, and they found out about the mysterious cultivation grass. That's why they chased me like crazy. It's too scary. And Kaiwe was still scared until now. Lin Yi simply didn't know what to say. This little chick, and was indeed a natural lousy teammate. She could even let this kind of thing slip. She really deserved to be chased. But then again, like underlings. These two underlings of Chang Lading were just like Chang Lading. They were also profit-seeking perverts. Little Chick and I was indeed unlucky to meet these two. All right, they've been chased away anyways. You should be fine now, right? I'm leaving. Lin Yi looked at Enai Kaiwe and was about to leave to find Wang Xinyan and the others. But before he could take a step, Enai Kaiwe grabbed his sleeve, and in a panic, she tripped her right foot and tore off a part of Lin Yi's sleeve. At the same time, she fell into Lin Yi's embrace. Don't go! Enai Tsayue's first reaction wasn't to push Lin Yi away. Instead, she looked at Lin Yi pitifully. Hey, don't tease me. Lin Yi could only look up at the sky. He couldn't help it. Little Chicken Eye was squeezed in front of his chest. If he looked down, he would easily see something he shouldn't see. But even so, Lin Yi still had the reaction of a normal man with a soft and fragrant body in his arms. After all, the girl's body was too hot, and he could only shrink back, awkwardly. Ah! Enai Kaiwe screamed and pushed Lin Yi away, with a blushing face. Nonsense! How can a girl tease a man like you? Who says girls can't tease men? There are female gangsters. Lin Yi shook his head and laughed. Ah, female gangster? Enai Kaiwe was stunned. She tilted her head and thought for a long time before she understood. I'm not a female gangster. Not a female gangster? Then why did you tease me for no reason? You even tore off my sleeve. I just changed into a beggar's uniform. Lin Yi said helplessly. I didn't tease you. I just wanted to hold you. I didn't expect your sleeve to be so weak. Enai Kaiwe pouted. She was the one who tripped herself. Why was she blaming my sleeve for being weak? Lin Yi didn't know what to say in the face of such strong logic. Forget it. Then why did you hold me? I'm afraid they'll come to catch me again. Can you send me back? Enai Kaiwe said pitifully. Send you back? Lin Yi frowned. Not now. I haven't found my companions yet. Then I'll follow you. They won't dare to catch me. Enai Kaiwe said. What? Lin Yi paused. He didn't have any other plans right now, and he'd leave after finding Xinyan and the others. Bringing that Enai girl with him wouldn't be a problem. So he nodded helplessly. Up to you then. Great. You're a good man. Enai Kaiwe was overjoyed. A good man who hides his strength? Lin Yi looked at her. Yes. A good man who hides his strength. Enai Kaiwe nodded. Lin Yi staggered, almost falling to the ground. Meeting a girl with a unique imagination like this, he really didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He'd saved her twice in a row, and now he was a good guy who hid his true nature. Did he really look like a bad guy to her, with Enai Kaiwe tagging along? Lin Yi began to look for Wang Xinyan and the others. Of course, he also looked for Xian nurturing grass. Chapter 49:16. Lin Yi. Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao's excited shouts came from afar, and Lin Yi turned his head to see the two girls pouncing at him without a care in the world. Lu Xiaozhong, on the other hand, was far behind them, unable to catch up at all. Xinyan, Xiaotao. Lin Yi went up to them excitedly, sighing inwardly. Thank goodness that thing was able to restrain the vengeful soul, or he'd be trapped in Lightning Burial City forever. He'd never be able to see his friends again. Are you all right? Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao examined Lin Yi from head to toe. There were some minor injuries on him, but they weren't serious. Only then did they relax. The name Thunder Burial was too frightening. They'd been worried about Lin Yi ever since they'd been separated from each other. I'm fine. Look, I'm fine. Lin Yi chuckled, not mentioning the vengeful soul at all. He didn't want the two girls to worry for nothing. Miss Enai, why are you back? Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao looked at each other in surprise when they noticed Enai Tsayue's presence. Wow, Master Lin, you really are a dragon among men. You've managed to hook up with the third goddess in such a short amount of time. Lu Xiaozhong's words made Enai Kaiwe blush. No, no, no. He didn't hook up with me. It's me. It's me. And Kaiwe waved her hands frantically. Then you're the one who hooked up with Master Lin? Lu Xiaozhong slapped his thigh in realization. Ha ha, no wonder you two got together so quickly. There's a saying that when a girl hooks up with a guy, there's a thin veil between them. Ah, what do you mean by a thin veil? I didn't. And Kaiwe blushed. Her face was veiled, but even her ears were red. Then Master Lin did it. Lu Xiaozhong's gossipy soul was burning. He looked back and forth between Lin Yi and Kaiwe, trying to get to the bottom of it. Shoo, shoo, shoo. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Lin Yi's head started to throb. This NI girl's pig teammate trait was really quite troublesome. There was clearly nothing wrong with her, but anyone would think that there was something fishy going on with her messy answers. Even Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao had a mischievous look in their eyes. Wouldn't the rice be cooked if they kept guessing blindly? That's right, there's nothing between us. I didn't stab him, and he didn't stab me, and Kaiwe angrily defended herself. Holy shit! Upon hearing this, Lin Yi almost spat out a mouthful of blood. What do you mean by the more I explain, the worse it gets? This is called the more I explain, the worse it gets. Shut up, I'll say it. Lin Yi really couldn't stand everyone's meaningful gazes, so he had to personally explain. This chick was chased by two of Chang Lading's lackeys and fled back to this place to ask for help. She happened to meet me, so I helped her out. After that, she didn't dare to leave alone, so she followed me. That's right. That's why we didn't stab each other. And Sayue's pig teammate halo was everywhere, and Lin Yi could only stare at the sky, speechless. Fortunately, everyone understood what had happened, and they looked at each other, not sure if they should laugh or cry. All right, did you get anything from this trip? Wang Xinyan changed the topic in time. She knew that there was nothing between the two, but she couldn't let Kaiwe continue, or the rice would really be cooked. No, there's only a mass grave. There's not even a single weed, let alone xian grass. Lin Yi shook his head with a bitter smile and asked, How about you guys? We didn't find any xian grasses, but at least we found some valuable herbs. It's better than nothing. Wang Xinyan and the others shook their heads. At the end of the day, Kaiwe was the only one in the group who found xian grasses. They didn't know if they should say that the girl was extremely lucky or that she was a fool with a fool's luck. It wasn't an outcome they were willing to accept, but there was nothing they could do about it. This was how rare treasures worked, and only the fated could get them. Otherwise, it wouldn't matter how strong one was. If that's the case, then there's no need to force it. Let's go back. Lin Yi decided. There was still some time before the 1-month deadline, and he could still try his luck if he didn't want to, but the chances were slim. Staying here would be a waste of time. All right. Wang Xinyan and the others naturally didn't have any objections. You went down to the lightning grave. Isn't there no xian grasses down there? Didn't they say that there were xian grasses everywhere? And Kaiwe finally realized what was going on and asked Lin Yi. Lin Yi looked at her helplessly. He understood now that the rumor that the Thunder Burial Ground had xian cultivating grass was just a rumor. The person who spread the rumor probably hadn't even been to the basin before. They thought that there would be more xian cultivating grass in the area, but it was just a beautiful misunderstanding. Lin Yi looked at Lin Yi helplessly. He knew that the Thunder Burial Ground had xian cultivating grass. Is there or isn't there? And Kaiwe asked, There's your sister. Lin Yi rolled his eyes at her. Huh, I don't have a sister. And Kaiwe was stunned for a moment. Then she blushed and said, don't tell me you're talking about my part. Young hero, you're teasing me again. What are you talking about? Lin Yi looked at her, confused. He didn't understand what Enai Kaiwa was talking about, but he understood when he saw her nervously covering her lower body. He glared at her, speechless. I'm going to *CK your sister. You really are a pervert. Enai Kaiwa took a few steps back and pointed at Lin E angrily. She looked like she was going to turn around and run at any moment. You're the pervert. Your whole family are perverts. Linny was so mad at the girl. They were both human, but how could she be so imaginative? My whole family isn't perverts. Enai Kaiwa stuck her neck out and thought about it for a while. She quickly added, I'm not a pervert either. Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao, on the other hand, couldn't help but chuckle at the scene. Lin Yi, who'd always been calm and collected, was losing his mind over and over again in front of this stupid Enai Kaiwa. Lin Yi was speechless. He slapped his forehead and said, I'm such a cheapskate. Why am I arguing with a silly girl like you? I'm not a silly girl. My name is Enai Kaiwa. Enai Kaiwa clarified with a serious face. Chapter 49:17. How can you be a silly girl? Enai Kaiwa stared at him blankly and suddenly exclaimed, so you are a girl. I thought you were a man. Your disguise is so good. There is no flaw at all. Shit. Lin Yi was speechless, and Xinyan and the others were rocking back and forth with laughter. Lu Xiaozhong was on the ground, punching the ground as hard as he could, tears coming out of his eyes. I can't talk to you. I'm leaving. Are you coming or not? Linny was too lazy to continue talking to this silly girl. If he continued, he might really suffer from internal injuries. Let's go, take me out, heroin. Enai Kaiwa nodded like a chick pecking rice and hurriedly followed. Heroin. Lin Yi staggered and fell to the ground. He was a man. When did he become a heroine? You don't like to be called heroine? Enai Kaiwa looked at him strangely and muttered to herself, Since I am a girl, of course I am a heroine. That is what Master taught me. Forget it. Since you don't like it, I will call you sister, or sister is fine too. Lin Yi had gone completely insane, and Xinyan and the others were laughing so hard that they didn't even have the energy to help him. Things were getting interesting now. The world no longer had a young hero Lin, but a little sis Lin. Girl, listen to me. I am a man, a real man, not a heroine, and definitely not a sister or sister. Lin Yi had to clarify weakly. Talking to this silly girl was really a troublesome thing. He really couldn't keep up with her strange thinking. Then why do you call yourself a silly girl? You are such a strange person. Enai Kaiwa looked up and down at Lin Yi as if she was watching a pervert. Lin Yi pointed at her for a long time, choked, and finally gave up the idea of clarifying himself and said helplessly, Are you going or not? So much nonsense. Let's go. Of course we're going. I've been wanting to go back for a long time. Enai Kaiwa nodded. Then what's in it for me? Lin Yi suddenly thought of something. He stopped and turned to look at her meaningfully. Benefits? Enai Kaiwa was stunned for a moment. She suddenly exclaimed and covered her chest with both hands. She looked at Lin Yi with a vigilant face and stammered, What benefits do you want? Master said that I would rather die than obey him. Lin Yi was speechless. He held his forehead and said helplessly, What are you thinking about? As a chick, can your thoughts be a little more pure? You're teasing me again. Enai Kaiwa looked at Lin Yi angrily. Lin Yi's temper had always been good, but dealing with this silly chick, he had already lost count of how many times he wanted to go crazy. He hurriedly took a deep breath to calm himself down and went straight to the point. Let's not talk so much. Let me ask you, after you take out the profound, nurturing grass, who are you going to find to help you refine the profound, nurturing pill? Of course, I'll hand it over to Master. Then she'll find the Academy's alchemists. The others don't know how to refine the profound, nurturing pill. And Kaiwa said as a matter of fact. Then what price do you have to pay? Linny asked again. Price? And Kaiwa, subconsciously covered her chest again and said with a vigilant face, Master won't let me do that kind of thing. I won't do it even if I die. Everyone burst into laughter again. This silly chick was really a clown. Linny said with a black face, Who said that kind of thing? I'm saying that even if it's your Academy's alchemists, they won't refine pills for you for free. There must be a price, right? Oh, so you're referring to this. And Kaiwa then reacted. After thinking for a while, she said, I heard Master mention it before. It seems that after the pill is refined, half will be given. If the refinement fails, then there's nothing left. Then, how many profound nurturing pills can you refine from this profound nurturing grass? Linny asked again. This. And Kaiwa tilted her head and thought for a long time. She carefully took out the profound, nurturing grass from her bosom and gestured with her hands. After a long time, she looked at Lin foolishly and said uncertainly, It seems like it's enough for 4 portions. If my luck is good, I might be able to refine 4 profound, nurturing pills. For portions of ingredients, and you want to refine 4 profound, nurturing pills? Your Academy's alchemists have such great confidence in refining a 7th grade medicinal pill. Could it be that it's an absolute success? Lin asked suspiciously. What's an absolute success? And Kaiwa tilted her head and thought for a long time. She roughly guessed Lin Yi's meaning and shook her head repeatedly. That's definitely impossible. Only if my luck is very good can I refine 4 pills. Normally, it's already not bad to refine 1 or 2. Since that's the case, then I'll refine it for you. I guarantee that I'll give you 3 profound, nurturing pills. What do you think? Lin suggested. Are you serious? You're lying to me, right? And Kaiwa was shocked when she heard that. She wasn't really stupid. Even the Academy's head alchemist wouldn't dare to boast about this. Normal people wouldn't rashly believe a stranger that they had only met once. This fellow couldn't be trying to swindle her of the profound, nurturing grass, right? And Kaiwa hurriedly covered her chest again and looked at Lin with a face of vigilance. Why would I lie to you? Lin glanced at her helplessly and said indifferently, If I was really aiming for your profound, nurturing grass, I could just directly snatch it. Why would I need to go through so much trouble? Think about it yourself. Those mere weaklings chased you until you were in such dire straits. If I really wanted to snatch it from you, how much trouble do you think it would take? This. And Kaiwa thought about it seriously for a moment. It seemed that what he said made sense. Suddenly, her small face tensed up and she said, Even so, you can't snatch it. I don't even want to snatch it. Linny said with a black face. If it wasn't for the sake of getting a few profound nurturing pills for himself and the others, he swore that he definitely wouldn't talk nonsense with this silly girl. It would really make him anxious to death. Oh, that's good. But can you really refine profound nurturing pills? You don't even have a beard. And Kaiwa questioned again, whether or not I can refine profound nurturing pills, and whether or not I have a beard, what's the connection between these 2 things? Lin couldn't help but be a little dazed when he heard that. Of course there's a connection. 7th grade alchemists are all white-bearded grandfathers. You're not one. And Kaiwa said matter-of-factly, Damn, Lin almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. Talking to this silly girl was really a matter that broke through the horizon. Even when he was facing the vengeful spirit, he didn't have such a headache. To be honest, he really had the urge to leave now. What bullsh *T profound nurturing pills? Who cares? Chapter 49:18. Kaiwa didn't have any more shocking ideas this time. She tilted her head and thought for a long time, then looked at Lin Yi and said, "Can you bring me along without refining pills?" "No," Lin Yi answered cleanly. He couldn't talk too much with this silly girl, or he would get angry easily. Then, okay then, Kaiwa didn't really believe that Lin Yi could really refine pills, but she was more afraid of going out alone. Although the spirit-nurturing grass was precious, it shouldn't be a problem to use it as travel expenses, right? If others knew what Kaiwa was thinking at this time, they would be so angry that they would kill themselves. A good thing that a group of profound ascending stage masters couldn't even get their hands on was actually used as travel expenses. There should be a limit to wasting natural resources. But no matter what, this spirit-nurturing grass was finally handed over to Lin Yi. Lin Yi couldn't help but look at her with some surprise. Although this silly girl could easily choke people to death, it wasn't without its benefits. At least if it was an ordinary person, they wouldn't hand over the spirit-nurturing grass so easily. "You guys wait here and keep watch for me," Lin Yi said, and found a relatively quiet place with the spirit-nurturing grass. He calmed himself down and started refining pills. All the supplementary materials needed to refine the profound raising pill were already prepared in the storage of spiritual herbs in the space within the jade pendant. This was also the reason why he suddenly made this suggestion. Otherwise, he wouldn't have thought of Ni Inghom. He's refining pills like this. Kaiwa glanced at Lin Yi from afar and said with a strange expression, "Is he really trying to cheat me of this spirit-nurturing grass? He doesn't even have a cauldron. How is he going to refine pills? Liar!" He really isn't lying. He always carries a cauldron with him." Wang Xinyan smiled. "Really? But he's clearly empty-handed." Kaiwa hadn't finished speaking when she saw a cauldron appear in front of Lin Yi. She was stunned and rubbed her eyes desperately. "Am I seeing things? Where did that stove come from?" Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao looked at each other and smiled. It was one thing for Wang Xinyan to see it, but they couldn't say it out loud. In fact, Lu Xiaozhong didn't understand either. With a puzzled expression, he said, "Master Lin is indeed Master Lin. He can even carry an alchemy furnace with him, and it's so amazing. As expected of Grandmaster Qing Danzi's master. He has an apprentice?" Kaiwa was even more shocked as she doubted. "He's accepting disciples at such a young age? Isn't he afraid of misleading them? Misleading students?" Lu Xiaozhong glanced at her disdainfully and said, "Master Qing Danzi is our Morning Star Academy's chief alchemist, a genuine level 7 alchemist. Even he is willing to become a disciple of Master Lin. Do you think this is misleading the students?" Tsayue's mouth instantly formed an O shape. She was stunned for a long time before she weakly said, "I don't go out much, don't lie to me. You'll know soon enough if I'm lying or not. Come, let's find a place to sit and talk while we wait." Xinyan smiled. "Oh," Kaiwa nodded obediently. Perhaps it was because of Xinyan's natural friendliness, but she didn't have any wariness towards Xinyan at all. She naturally felt close to Xinyan and didn't suspect anything like she did with Lin Yi. The group of people sat in the distance and waited. After 6 hours, Kaiwa had completely become familiar with Xinyan and the others. She called each other big sister and little sister. Both Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao were very close to her. After all, her silly and cute personality was very lovable. Of course, this didn't include the crazy Lin Yi. "Yo, you guys are eating. Give me some." Lin Yi suddenly squeezed his butt in. Lu Xiaozhong hurriedly handed over the barbecued meat in his hand. This was a small spirit beast that he had caught nearby. The meat was fresh and tender, and the texture was very good. He thought that Lin Yi's alchemy would take a long time, so he decided to have an outdoor barbecue. He didn't expect that Lin Yi would finish before they even started eating. "You finished refining it so quickly? Are you lying to me?" Anai Kaiwe jumped up with an expression as if her intelligence had been severely insulted. She said, angrily, "Even if you're lying to me, you should at least be serious. How can refining a mysterious raising pill be this fast? Even the alchemists in our school need a few days." Lin Yi didn't pay attention to her at all. As he ate the barbecued meat, he freed a hand in front of Anai Kaiwe. "What?" Anai Kaiwe jumped in fright. She quickly crossed her arms in front of her chest to protect herself. She pitifully begged, "If you're lying to me, then lie to me. Can you not hit me?" Lin Yi choked, almost choking to death on the spot. He struggled for a long time before opening his palms. "Who's going to hit you? See for yourself." "Oh," Anai Kaiwe responded weakly. When she saw the thing in Lin Yi's hand, she was immediately stunned. She stuttered. This is a mysterious raising pill. 3 mysterious raising pills? At least you're not that stupid. Here, keep it yourself. I won't care if you lose it." Lin Yi casually threw the 3 pills to Anai Kaiwe, making the silly girl panic. She only managed to catch them after a moment of confusion. She looked at them with surprise and joy before carefully putting them away. There was only 1 stalk of mysterious raising grass, which was only enough for 4 sets of ingredients. But in a short 6 hours, 3 mysterious raising pills were made. This result shocked Anai Kaiwe. But what made her even more speechless was that Lin Yi gave Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao 1 each. That wasn't all. Lin Yi still had 2 in his hands. This meant that he'd made 7 mysterious raising pills in one go, and Kaiwa was going crazy. She had never seen the world before, but she knew what this meant. 4 sets of ingredients to make 7 mysterious raising pills. What kind of person was this? At this time, she looked at Lin Yi as if she was looking at a monster. Although she was far away and had been chatting with Wang Xinyan and the others, she didn't see the specific process of Lin Yi's pill making. But this wasn't important. Just this result alone was enough to shock the world. "Young hero, who are you learning from? Why are you so powerful?" And Kaiwe couldn't help but ask, although she felt that Lin Yi was very powerful when he defeated Chang Lading, Old Xiao, and Old Li with ease. After all, these were not ordinary early-stage profound ascension masters. They were all strong people who could challenge above their level. It was not easy for Lin Yi to defeat them so easily, but all this only made her feel that he was powerful. She had never been so shocked. Chapter 49:19. Didn't I tell you long ago that I'm from the North Island? Why are you so dull? Is your memory bad? Lin Yi glanced at her and said, You. And Kaiwe was so anxious that she didn't know how to refute. She tilted her head and thought for a long time. Suddenly, her eyes lit up and she said, I remember now." "What? You finally remember that I said I'm from the North Island? Your reflex arc is really long," Lin Yi said with a smile, somewhat speechless. No. I remember Master once said that there's a very powerful super expert in the North Island. His name seems to be. And Kaiwe choked halfway. "What's his name?" The first person that came to Lin Yi's mind at this moment was Ram Jia, the head of the law enforcement hall. This legendary figure of the young generation in the North Island had given Lin Yi a strong and inexplicable pressure since the first time he heard of him. He was also a figure that he secretly vowed to surpass in the future. But on second thought, Lin Yi knew that he was thinking too much. He thought of Ram Jia purely because he was a goal that he had to surpass. It was impossible for Ramjia's fame to be so well known even in Dongzhou. Not to mention others, there should be many people in the North Island who were stronger than Ramjia. For example, Lan Tiefu, the eldest senior brother who was in charge of the inner gate of Soaring Pavilion. Judging from his performance in the face of the new Azure Dragon, this person's strength should not be weaker than Ramjia, let alone those super big shots standing at the top. Shangguan Tianhua. Yes, it's Shangguan Tianhua. And Kaiwe clapped her hands excitedly and looked at Lin Yi with shining eyes. Young hero, you're so powerful that even people like Chang Lading are no match for you. You're invincible at the same level, and you're also a super alchemist. You must be a disciple of Shangguan Tianhua, right? Lin Yi smiled secretly. Sure enough, it was Shanghai Tianhua, Ren Zhongyuan, and others were impressed by him during the trial in the West Island because of his name. It could be seen that this super big shot was not simple. Otherwise, if it was just the name of the head of Soaring Pavilion, it would at most shock the North Island. It was impossible for him to be so famous in Dongzhou. Congratulations, you're right. Lin Yi nodded. He didn't want to deny it. After all, it would be troublesome to explain. He might as well not explain. It wasn't wrong to say it. Sure enough, I heard from Master that Shanghai Tianhua is a big shot who left a legend in Dongzhou. His strength is so strong that it makes people's hair stand on end. Young hero, you're his disciple. You're so powerful. And Tsayue's eyes were full of little stars of worship. He used to be a legend in Dongzhou. Hee. Lin Yi couldn't help laughing. This was not a surprising thing. Except for the spirit beasts, almost all the big shots on the other Heaven Stage islands had studied in Dongzhou. It was normal for them to leave a legend, but Lin Yi was still a little surprised. Speaking of which, Lin Yi had met Shanghai Tianhua many times. Because of Shanghai Laner, they were familiar with each other, and it was widely rumored that he was Shanghai Tianhua's personal disciple. But Lin Yi knew very little about this super big shot in the North Island, and he knew nothing about his past. This was the first time he learned about it from Ni Kaiwe. No. Ni Kaiwe suddenly shook her head. Shanghai Tianhua doesn't seem to be an elixir refiner. You're so good at it. He didn't teach you, did he? Oh, then who do you think taught me? Lin Yi was speechless as he looked at Xinyan and the others. She'd already admitted that she was right, but she herself was wrong. Talking to this Ni girl was too much of a hassle. Ni Kaiwe tilted her head and thought for a while. She smacked her head and said, I remember now. I heard that there's a very powerful elixir god Zhang Liju from the North Island. Are you his disciple? Congratulations on getting 2 answers. Your smart IQ has taken the high ground again. Lin Yi was like a hoodwinker. And I'm actually quite smart. Kaiwe raised her head proudly. After a while, she blinked and asked, What is IQ? What high ground? It's nothing. It doesn't have much to do with you. Lin Yi's words made Xinyan giggle. She couldn't help but roll her eyes at Lin Yi. She was the only one who understood what he meant. Oh, as long as it doesn't have anything to do with me. Kaiwe followed his advice. This time, it wasn't just Xinyan. Even Lin Yi himself was amused. Seeing the confused look on Xinyan's face, he quickly put on a serious face. Shangguan Tianhua, Zhang Liju, whose disciple am I? I know. You're their disciple. Kaiwe couldn't wait to answer. Congratulations. You know how to answer first. Lin Yi gave her a thumbs up with a face full of respect. Facing this kind of dumb girl, his hidden great trickster attribute was brought out completely. Everything else aside, the sounds of laughter and chatting along the way were quite entertaining. The 5 of them returned to the teleportation point. Since they took the main road, they didn't encounter any accidents. They didn't even see a spirit beast. As for the students, they all stayed far away from them. After all, no one was deliberately hiding their strength. The 5 of them were all early-stage mysterious ascendant experts. This kind of powerful lineup was almost invincible in the path of giants. No one dared to provoke them, or else they might be killed and robbed. This kind of thing was too common. 2 days later, Lin Yi's group finally returned to the teleportation point. The other students all made way for them. Very soon, they were teleported out. Coming out of the teleportation formation was the dock. At this time, there were less than half of the battleships and ships that were docked here. However, the academies that didn't have all of their disciples would naturally stay here and wait. After a month, they would have to leave regardless of whether all of their disciples had arrived or not. This was the rule of the Golden Step Academy's alliance. Young warrior, I understand now. You're actually a very good person. And Kai Wei suddenly turned to Lin Yi. After leaving the teleportation point, they would naturally return to their own ships and forget about each other. Is that so? It's not easy to hear something nice from you. Lin Yi said with a chuckle. It was rare that he didn't use a preamble to hide his feelings. Congratulations. Yes, I'll remember you. And Kai Wei nodded. Chapter 49:20. I will always remember you. And Kai Wei repeated. However, before Lin Yi could be moved, this silly girl suddenly blinked and said, what's your name again? I'm going to faint. You don't even know my name. How are you going to remember it? Lin Yi almost fell. Under the laughter of Wang Xinyan and the others, he could only helplessly smile and say, My name is Lin Yi. Lin Yi? Why does it sound so ordinary? I thought it was a very powerful name. And Kai Wei pouted. There's such a thing as powerful or not. Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It was the first time he heard such a novel and unique way of saying it. Of course, but Lin Yi is Lin Yi. I'll remember it. And Kai Wei smiled slightly and said, Then let's meet at the Xuanjiesi area. At that time, we can be friends. Don't. In my eyes, women can only be girlfriends. So forget it. Lin Yi joked. You're teasing me again. And Kai Wei suddenly blushed again. However, she was wearing a veil, so others couldn't see it. You're too sensitive. This is called teasing? All right, hurry up and go. The people in your academy are calling you. Lin Yi smiled and reminded her. At this time, someone on a treasure ship in the distance was waving at him. Looking at the flag, it was Donghua Academy, where Kai Wei was from. Then I'm leaving. But don't tease me again next time. Kai Wei hurriedly waved her hand at the people on the treasured vessel, and she was about to turn around and leave in high spirits. However, she just turned around when she saw a face that was gloomy like water, and she was instantly shocked and cried out involuntarily. Chang Lading. Humph, you didn't expect it, right? I've been waiting for you here for a long time. Chang Lading sneered. At this moment, Lao Xiao was still behind him, but there was no Lao Li. After being struck by Lin Yi's lightning, which was comparable to the thunder retribution, although he showed mercy and did not kill him on the spot, it was impossible for him to get out of bed without lying down for a few months. On the contrary, the sudden appearance of Chang Lading here made Lin Yi somewhat surprised. This guy's injury was not as serious as Lao Li. After all, Lin Yi only used him to test his moves at that time, and he only tested the 4-attribute martial technique. But how many days had it been? This guy was actually as lively as a dragon, and as lively as a tiger. Apart from some scars on his body, his movements were completely normal. It seemed that he must have taken some top-grade tonic, like the Great Revitalizing Pill. Otherwise, It would be impossible for him to recover so quickly just by relying on conventional healing methods. Don't come over. And Kaiwe was frightened and panicked. She subconsciously hid behind Lin Yi. Chang Lading's gloomy face suddenly turned darker. Some of the academy's disciples around who knew the inside story whispered. And Kaiwe was not only the third fairy of Galinsi area, but also the Taoist companion of Chang Lading. But now, in order to hide from Chang Lading, she fled behind another man. This scene was really weird. There was no shortage of people gossiping everywhere. In just a moment, a heart-wrenching love triangle story intertwined with love and hate had been fresh out of the oven and instantly spread throughout the audience. Listening to these off-key whispers, Chang Lading was about to explode. He pointed at Lin Yi and said angrily, "Little bastard, I finally found you. Great. Not only did you sneak attack me inside, you even dared to seduce my Taoist companion in front of everyone. You know who I am." Actually, Chang Lading's style was not to use his power to suppress others. Under normal circumstances, he would first cripple the opponent and then show off his powerful background. Only then would he be able to fully display his power as one of the 4 young masters of nascent soul realm. But this time, he could not do it. The previous fight had shown the difference in strength between the two sides. Chang Lading was not a fool. No matter how arrogant he was, he knew that he was no match for Lin Yi. Therefore, he could only change his way of thinking and directly use his powerful background to suppress others. Aren't you Chang Lading? Didn't we just meet a few days ago? I'm not that forgetful. What else do you want? Lin Yi glanced at him indifferently. Humph, it's good that you know. I'm not afraid to tell you that I am the son of the chief alchemist of Tripod City Academy, Zhang Zili. Chang Lading said, arrogantly. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a sudden uproar. The chief alchemist of any academy was a big shot, at least in the top 5 of the academy. However, under normal circumstances, no matter how high the position of the chief alchemist was, he could only be ranked second, just below the dean of the academy. However, this Tripod City Academy was extremely special. The position of the chief alchemist was higher than that of the dean. This was because this was an academy that focused on alchemy. At least half of the academy's students were alchemists. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that Tripod City Academy was the cradle of high-level alchemists. To be able to become the chief alchemist of such an academy, one's status was far above that of other Yellow Steppe academies. In the East Continent's Yellow Steppe Sea region, this academy was practically the banner of all alchemists. Whether it was status or influence, it was no small matter. However, Lin Yi didn't know about this. To be precise, even if he knew, he wouldn't care. After all, even a 7th-grade alchemist like Qing Danzi was willing to be his disciple. Even if this Tripod City Academy was the cradle of alchemists, there was no way that a 7th-grade alchemist would be willing to be someone else's disciple. Oh, your father's surname is Zhang, but your surname is Chang? You're the latter? Lin Yi's focus was a little more unique, and he even revealed an expression of curiosity and gossip. Hearing this, Chang Lading almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He said angrily, "That's my mother." "Oh, I see. So, the chief alchemist of Tripod City Academy is a woman. Sorry about that." Lin Yi smiled without sincerity. Then he cooperated and asked, "What about your father?" "Humph, I'm going to say it now. You'd better be careful and stand firm, or you'll be scared to the ground by me. That would be too embarrassing," Chang Lading said with a disdainful look. "Oh, I'm listening. Don't worry about me. I've always been open-minded. Come and scare me." Lin Yi smiled faintly, as if he was asking for a slap in the face. This little bastard really deserved a beating. Seeing this scene, Chang Lading was so angry that his teeth hurt. However, He didn't dare to attack directly. He could only continue to put on a disdainful look and said, "Listen up, my father is the mayor of Tripod City." Suddenly, there was another round of exclamations. However, Lin Yi had a look of realization on his face. He nodded repeatedly and said, "Oh, I understand. Your Tripod City Academy is a small place in the countryside. Other academies are cities, but yours is a town." Chapter 49:21. Although from the name, the standard of Cauldron Town seemed to be a little lower than the main cities of those academies, but don't forget that Cauldron City Academy was the cradle of high-level alchemists, and Cauldron Town was the holy land of alchemists in the Yellow Class C region. Almost all the alchemists in the Yellow Class C region had to go there for a pilgrimage, and its status was extraordinary. In fact, although it was called Cauldron Town, its overall size was bigger than the main cities of those academies. The so-called Cauldron Town was just its most core area, a holy land of alchemists that no one could enter. Not only was Cauldron Town not small, but because of its super strong influence as the holy land of alchemists, it could even compete with Thunder City, where the headquarters of the Yellow Class Academy Alliance was located. The position of its town lord, even among the city lords of all the Yellow Class Academy main cities, was also among the best. Such a holy land of alchemists with such a high status was actually said to be a small place in the countryside. How could those who really came from small places endure this? Why, I'm so angry. Little bastard, you're courting death. Someone cripple him for me. Chong Lading stomped his feet and cursed while speaking. He himself did not make a move. First, he knew that he could not beat Lin Yi, and second, there was no need for him to do it himself. There were many people who were willing to take care of Lin Yi for him. Of course, this certainly did not include Old Xiao. In front of Lin Yi, he could only piss his pants in terror. Even if he had the heart, he did not have the strength. Sure enough, as soon as Chong Lading's voice fell, two profound Ascension late-stage experts with extraordinary aura suddenly flashed beside him. More and more onlookers quickly made way for them. Although many of them were already new Profound Ascension early-stage experts, compared to these two senior Profound Ascension late-stage experts, there was still too much of a difference. Just this cold aura alone made people feel afraid, and they did not dare to cross the line. Bold madman, you dare to sneak attack young Master Chong in the trial, and now you are boasting shamelessly in public to slander my Cauldron City Academy. You're not going to surrender. One of them frowned and shouted, "Who are you people?" Lin Yi's expression did not change in the slightest as he sized up the two Profound Ascension late-stage experts who had suddenly appeared. Although their auras were strong and powerful, they should not be fake goods. However, he could clearly feel that the auras of these two people were a little rough. It seemed that they were not people who often fought, at least not very good at it. Lin Yi's guess wasn't wrong at all. These two were the libationers of Cauldron City, and they were high-level refiners as well. Naturally, they didn't spar with people like the other mystical late-phase masters, and it was inevitable that their auras were a bit rough. Humph! We are the libation of the Tripod City Academy. Which academy are you from? Hurry up and tell us your name. The two of them said in a condescending tone, with Chong Lading's powerful background. These two ordinary Grand Chancellors could only curry favor with him. Of course, they had to put on a good performance at this time. However, they couldn't just attack without saying anything. They had to put on a big hat for Lin Yi first. Otherwise, if this matter were to spread, they would have the reputation of bullying the weak. That would tarnish the reputation of Cauldron City Academy. Me? Didn't Chong Lading tell you? Lin Yi glanced at Chong Lading in surprise. Chong Lading's face immediately turned red. He had only asked these two to teach Lin Yi a lesson to vent his anger. As for the details of what happened on the path of a tyrant, he would not go into detail. After all, it would be too embarrassing. The two grand chancellors froze for a moment. When they saw Chang Lading's expression, they immediately knew that something was wrong. They quickly changed their words. No matter which academy you are from, you dare to slander our Cauldron City Academy in public. Just based on this alone, we cannot let you off easily. We can keep your life, but we must cripple your cultivation today as a warning to others. You are too much. Hearing this, Wang Xinyan could no longer hold it in. She immediately stepped forward. The aura of an early-stage profound ascension expert was unmistakable. Not only her, but Huang Xiaotao and Lu Xiaozhong also revealed their strength. In this way, including Lin Yi himself, there were a total of 4 early-stage mystical ascension masters. Although it was not worth mentioning in front of the 2 late-stage mystical ascension masters, the atmosphere still became very tense. Do you want to have your cultivation crippled as well? If you ruin your future in a moment of impulse, you can only live in the darkness and helplessness for the rest of your lives. Hurry up and back off. The 2 grand chancellors frowned when they saw the situation. They did not think that these people were very strong when they teamed up. In fact, if they really fought, for early-stage profound ascension, experts wouldn't even be able to withstand a single move from them. However, if things really developed to that point, there would be repercussions. Because of Lin Yi's rudeness, the 2 of them had crippled his cultivation in front of everyone. This was not something that could be criticized, but if they were to cripple 4 new early-stage profound ascension experts, and they seemed to be from the same academy, then there would be a huge enmity. Once things got out of hand, the Cauldron City Academy would definitely have to give an explanation, and this black pot could only be placed on the 2 of them. After all, they couldn't push the blame onto Chang Lading, could they? TSK. I didn't think that the Cauldron City Academy would be so tyrannical. I thought that only the Leidong Academy was like this. Today is really an eye-opener. Lu Xiaozhong was a person who wished for the whole world to be in chaos. Not only was he not afraid at this time, he even went to provoke the other side. At most, it would be a chaotic battle. He had seen this kind of scene many times. Kid, you better be careful with your words. We only didn't want to make a move because you are all students of the same academy. Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. The Grand Chancellor of the Cauldron City Academy said coldly, I'm so scared. Lu Xiaozhong shouted with an exaggerated face. That expression really deserved a beating no matter how you looked at it. It was like his father Lu Dachang had inherited it. Die. The 2 Grand Chancellors were so angry that their mouths were crooked. If it weren't for the last bit of rationality, they would have slapped Lu Xiaozhong to death. This kid was too hateful. Your academy is really powerful, wanting to cripple someone's cultivation without any reason. Do you really think that our Morning Star Academy is easy to bully? Wang Xinyan quickly stood up and said, not daring to let Lu Xiaozhong talk nonsense anymore. After all, they were facing 2 late-stage profound ascension masters. If they were to fight, they would definitely be at a disadvantage. The best solution today was to bring up the name of the Morning Star Academy, so that the other side wouldn't dare to act rashly. After all, in terms of strength, the Morning Star Academy was considered a top-tier existence among the Golden Stage Academies. Chapter 49-22. What's there to be afraid of? That little bastard is from the North Island. He's not from the Morning Star Academy. Chang Lading snorted in dissatisfaction. From the North Island? The 2 Tripod City Academy chancellors froze for a moment, then felt relieved. A mere disciple from the North Island wouldn't be a problem even if he was killed on the spot, let alone crippling his cultivation. Would Shanghai Tianhua, come all the way to the East Continent just for a disciple from the North Island? You guys listen up. Today we will only punish this insolent kid. If anyone else interferes, don't blame us for being merciless." The two chancellors' expressions turned serious, and they were about to attack Lin Yi. Wang Xinyan and the others' hearts sank, and they quickly tried to block in front of Lin Yi, but Lin Yi smiled and waved his hand. "You guys go back and watch the show. I'm just about to get some exercise." Huh. Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao looked at each other, stunned. Seeing that Lin Yi wasn't nervous at all, they looked at each other and retreated. Although they had faith in Lin Yi's strength, a profound ascending early stage against two profound ascending late stage, wasn't the difference a little too big? As for Lu Xiaozhong, he retreated quickly. He wasn't stupid, and although he wasn't afraid of trouble, it didn't mean that he wasn't afraid of death. Since Lin Yi said that he only needed to watch the show, he naturally wouldn't be stupid enough to be cannon fodder. Hee, a mere disciple from the North Island sure has a big mouth. The two chancellors laughed when they heard this. They thought that Lin Yi was a frog at the bottom of a well who had never seen the world. He was the king of a small place like the North Island, and he thought that he would be invincible in the East Continent. He was really stupid to a certain extent. Daydreams would always be broken one day, and today was the perfect time to wake him up. Seeing that Chang Lading had already revealed an impatient expression, the two chancellors of the Cauldron City Academy didn't dare to be negligent. They immediately leaped up and were about to attack Lin Yi. However, before the two of them could take their stances, Lin Yi suddenly raised his hand and shouted coldly, "Thousand thunder explosions!" As late-stage profound ascension experts, the two chancellors of the Cauldron City Academy displayed extreme contempt towards Lin Yi's moves. However, before the contempt could even be seen on their faces, the two of them suddenly twitched and fell to the ground, a thick, dark blue lightning pillar on top of their heads. Hiss! The sound of people gasping in unison rose and fell, and it was continuous and unending. They didn't have time to do anything, and the two late-stage mystical ascension masters were lying on the ground with black smoke coming out of them. Everyone looked at Lin Yi as if they were looking at a monster. Was this guy really a mystical ascension master? Could this guy be a spirit beast? Someone couldn't help but whisper, "It's possible. No, it should be very possible. Even if a human cultivator has a lightning attribute spiritual root, it's still impossible for him to release such a powerful lightning strike. It's almost at the level of a lightning tribulation. Oh, no, this is even stronger than a lightning tribulation." Someone immediately echoed, Yes, a human cultivator can actually release a lightning tribulation. I've never heard of it before. Those powerful lightning attribute spirit beasts are more like it. I heard that not only are there lightning eagles, but there's also the legendary thunder dragon. Could this guy be a thunder dragon? Someone immediately had a brainwave. Yes. And you still say that he's from the North Island. When did the people of the North Island become so powerful? It's impossible. It must be the thunder attribute spirit beast inside that couldn't bear the loneliness and came out to fish in troubled waters. That must be it. Someone else said confidently, "That makes sense. The teleportation circle here only has a one-way restriction. Although only original soul stage masters can enter, there's no restriction on strength. It's completely possible." Everyone quickly came to a conclusion, listening to the whispers of the people around them. Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Although they were also shocked by Lin Yi's sudden burst of power, they still thought that he was a thunder attribute spirit beast. What were they thinking? Oh, so he's the legendary thunder dragon. No wonder he's so powerful. And Sayue's eyes lit up. She agreed with this statement. Wang Xinyan and the others were completely shocked by her. She had just helped him concoct the profound raising pill. How could he be the legendary Thunder Dragon? Could it be that a Thunder Dragon could become an alchemist? This girl's brain was really different from normal people. However, Lin Yi didn't pay any attention to the discussions around him. He was completely immersed in the joy of the 1,000 lightning explosions. The one who was most shocked by the 1,000 lightning explosions wasn't the spectators, but himself. The 1,000 thunderbolts explosion was a new technique that he had come up with on the way here. The origin of this technique came from the Thunder Dragon. Everyone was right about this. Before this, Lin Yi's thunder and lightning energy was many times stronger than before. However, he hadn't truly grasped the essence of it. The way he attacked was simple and plain. To put it bluntly, he just let the thunder and lightning energy in his body pour out in torrents. There was no technique to speak of. This was like a wealthy man who obviously had too much money at home, but he would only use it like an ordinary person to feed and clothe himself. Apart from that, he didn't know how to spend so much money. It was simply a reckless waste of God's gifts. When he first received the Thunder inheritance, Lin Yi only knew how to use arcs of electricity. Now that his thunder and lightning energy had grown many times stronger, the so-called lightning strike he mastered was actually a magnified version of arcs of electricity. There was no difference between the two. With Lin Yi's comprehension, he quickly realized that there was a problem. However, it wasn't easy for Lin Yi to figure out what the problem was. He needed advice from an expert. Unfortunately, the giant eel that gave him the thunder inheritance had long since perished. That ghost didn't specialize in thunder and lightning, so it was difficult for it to give him any advice. That was until he went to Thunder Burial City. The vengeful spirits Yuan Shen controlled the Thunder Dragon's corpse to use a few bolts of purple lightning. While it made Lin Yi suffer a lot, it also benefited him a lot. Not only did the thunder and lightning energy in his body become stronger, but it also gave him the opportunity to take a peek at some tricks. To be able to reach such a level of purple lightning, it was definitely not a simple superposition of the power of thunder and lightning. If that was the case, at most, it would be dark blue. With the thunder and lightning energy in Lin Yi's body, it was more than enough to deal with Chang Lading and the others. However, once he faced a real master, he wouldn't even need to face a master of the mountain opening stage. Just a master of the profound ascending stage would be difficult to deal with. Chapter 49:23. When lightning strikes could not kill people, the threat would naturally be greatly reduced, and it was very likely to return to the previous embarrassing situation, where it could only be used to restrain and harass, but could not become a truly powerful killing move. Fortunately, Lin Yi had learned a trick from the long-dead Lei Long. He discovered that the opponent's purple lightning was far from a simple superposition of the power of lightning, but there were clear signs of some lightning particles colliding. The difference was very subtle, and even with Lin Yi's observation skills, it was hard for him to notice it right away. But this wasn't the first time he'd been struck by lightning. He'd been struck by lightning so many times, and he'd had a taste of the purple lightning. Without a doubt, other than the difference in the strength of the lightning, the most fundamental difference was the collision of the lightning particles. However, understanding was just understanding. Wanting to grasp such an exquisite and profound skill in an instant was not realistic. After all, Lin Yi himself was just a beginner who had barely learned lightning strikes, and it was impossible for him to directly reach the level of Lei Long in one step. However, he could follow this train of thought and use his own method to transform the lightning strike bit by bit to become more powerful. The 1,000 thunderbolt explosion was the first step that Lin Yi had taken, integrating the violent sand 1,000 explosive fist technique into the lightning strike, and thus came the shocking 1,000 thunderbolt explosion just now. Of course, It could also be called the Violent Lightning Thousand Explosive Fist, but Lin Yi clearly liked the Thousand Thunderbolt Explosion more. It was awe-inspiring and imposing. All kinds of discussions could be heard from the surroundings. Most of them actually did not see what happened clearly. They only saw a thick dark blue lightning flash in front of their eyes, and then two profound Ascension late-stage experts lay down straight with black smoke rising from their bodies. But this did not hinder their imagination. For a time, all kinds of strange theories were clamoring. In contrast, the theory that Lin Yi was the incarnation of Lei Long was already considered reliable, and even more outrageous was that Lin Yi was the incarnation of the power of lightning, and even said that Lin Yi was the illegitimate child of the god of thunder and the goddess of lightning. Lin Yi was speechless. He couldn't help but want to point at these people's noses and scold them for being so superstitious. The spectators at the side were only discussing amongst themselves. Chang Lading, who was only a few steps away from the two chancellors, was so scared that he peed his pants. His heart was filled with lingering fear. Fortunately, he had learned his lesson last time and had the self-awareness to let these two unlucky chancellors act on his behalf. Otherwise, he would have been hacked into pieces on the spot. Young Master Chang, what do you think we should do next? Lin Yi cracked his knuckles maliciously. The dark blue electric arcs jumping on his fingertips were ready to move, just like the god of thunder. Feeling the cold killing intent in Lin Yi's eyes, Chang Lading was scared stiff. Every time the electric arc on Lin Yi's fingertips jumped, he couldn't help but tremble. He was afraid that 1,000 thunderbolts explosion would suddenly appear on his head and smoke together with the two unlucky chancellors on the ground. How dare you attack me? Chang Lading was already very courageous for not running away on the spot. With his pride, he would never lose face in front of so many people. Moreover, in this place, even if he couldn't beat Lin Yi, there were plenty of people who could beat this Northern Island bumpkin to death. Didn't you see it? Is your eyesight bad? Lin Yi smiled faintly. Chang Lading was choked to the point of vomiting blood. He pointed at Lin Yi and gnashed his teeth. Just you wait. Believe it or not, I'll make you die without a burial place. I can't do anything to you inside, but since you're out, I can kill you with just a finger. Then hurry up and move. You're so noisy. You're not a man at all. Let me help you. Lin Yi felt that he was wasting time. As he spoke, the electric arc jumping on his fingertips suddenly grew into a dark blue lightning pillar. Although it was just a simplified version of 1,000 thunderbolts explosion, it was still breathtaking. Before his voice died away, the lightning pillar directly fell on the head of Chang Lading. Young Master Chang, who was fierce in appearance but weak in heart, immediately fell straight down with black smoke. His posture was the same as that of the two unlucky chancellors, or even worse. There was a faint smell of burnt flesh on his body. All the people present were suddenly stunned. One by one, they hurriedly retreated more than 10 feet. They looked at Lin Yi with a horrified expression, as if they were watching the fire cloud evil god. When did such a ruthless person appear in the Northern Island? Without saying a word, he killed two unlucky chancellors in the late profound ascension stage. Now, because he felt that the other party was too long-winded, he moved his finger and struck Chang Lading down. Was this guy going to repeat the ruthless deeds of Shanghai Tianhua? Back then, Shanghai Tianhua had forced the Academy Alliance into a corner all by himself. Although this guy with lightning all over his body was slightly weaker, it was obvious that he was also heading in that direction. After all, this was the territory of the Golden Stage Academy Alliance. Let's go, Lin Yi said to Wang Xinyan and the others behind him. He took the lead and walked in the direction of the dock. The surrounding people hurriedly made way for him, afraid that they would accidentally provoke this ruthless person from the Northern Island. This place was not suitable for them to stay for long. Since Chang Lading and the others had come to the door, Lin Yi, of course, had to fight back. However, he also expected that doing so would definitely cause trouble. It was best to return to the Morning Star Academy's treasure ship first. That way, he would have another layer of protection, and others would more or less have to worry about him. However, before Lin Yi and the others could take a few steps, a group of people suddenly appeared in front of them, blocking their way. Lin Yi's eyelids suddenly twitched. These people all had a special symbol on them, which was completely different from the symbols of ordinary academies. The key point was that every one of them had a monstrous aura. They were all Magnate Realm Masters in the early mountain opening stage. After coming to the Heavenly Stage Island for 2 years, Lin Yi could be considered to have seen a lot of the world. He had once been chased by the West Mountain Old Sect, but he had never been surrounded like this before. In front of him was a whole group of Magnate Realm Masters of the mountain opening stage. This group of Magnate Realm Masters obviously did not come with good intentions. Seeing this, Wang Xinyan and the others couldn't help but turn pale. With their strength, they might be able to deal with the mysterious late-stage masters, but now that they were facing Magnate Realm Masters, what could they do? At this time, the surrounding spectators were even more in an uproar. Although many of them were mysterious early-stage masters, in front of so many Magnate Realm Masters, they couldn't even stand firm. They could only quickly retreat a few hundred feet to barely withstand the pressure of this monstrous aura. Who dares to cause trouble here? Arrest them. The leader's strength was much stronger than the others. He was actually a mountain opening stage master. Chapter 49-24. As expected of the East Continent, where super experts gathered. Even if it was just a Golden Stage Academy alliance, it still had such a shocking strength. It was really not a small matter. The middle stage mountain opening expert seemed to be the guard captain. With a command, the 2 middle stage mountain opening experts walked towards Lin Yi, one on the left and one on the right. At this moment, Lin Yi's mind was racing. To be honest, the path of the Magnate had not only allowed him to successfully advance to the profound ascension realm, but he had also mastered such a powerful lightning power. Now was the time for him to be bursting with confidence. However, no matter how confident he was, suddenly facing 2 middle-stage Magnate experts was still a huge pressure. After all, these 2 people were not the 2 unlucky chancellors from before. The 1,000 Thunderbolts explosion could deal with the middle-stage Magnate experts, but to say that they could even deal with the middle-stage Magnate experts at the middle stage was too whimsical, not to mention the others. Even Lin Yi himself did not believe it. However, this situation was obviously disadvantageous to him. Lin Yi could not just give up, right? He could not resist, and he could not resist either. Lin Yi was suddenly in a dilemma, and he could not help but feel a little regretful. He did not regret taking care of Chang Lading and the 2 unlucky chancellors, but he regretted not escaping back to the treasure ship after taking care of the 3 of them. If he was on the treasure ship of the Morning Star Academy, then even the guards of the Academy Alliance would not be able to capture him in public, right? At most, it would just be wrangling. He had miscalculated. Lin Yi sighed to himself. Just as he was about to make a decision, someone suddenly stood up from behind him. It was Lu Xiaozhong. Why should we capture Master Lin? They were the ones who caused trouble first. Master Lin was only defending himself. Everyone can see this. Lu Xiaozhong shouted at the top of his lungs. Although facing so many giants of the mountain opening stage at such a close distance, he was not a person who was afraid of trouble. Moreover, his father was a giant of the mountain opening stage, and his strength was even stronger than these people, so he did not feel that there was anything to be afraid of. Lin Yi couldn't help but feel a little moved when he saw this. In fact, He didn't have much friendship with Lu Xiaozhong. At most, Lu Xiaozhong took care of him a little on the road to becoming a giant, but he didn't give him too many benefits. At this time, it was really commendable that Lu Xiaozhong could stand up for him without fear of power. Yeah, Linny isn't guilty. What right do you have to arrest him? Xin Yan and Xiao Hao jumped in front of Lin Yi as well. What? Do you want to be arrested as well? The leader of the guards narrowed his eyes and looked coldly at the three of them. His dignified face was suddenly filled with displeasure, ruthlessness, and even killing intent. As the only military establishment of the Academy Alliance, the authority of the Alliance Guards was not to be underestimated. Killing was only one of the most basic duties. As long as they could come up with a reason, they could easily kill any disciple of any academy. Therefore, if they dared to disobey, even if they killed Lin Yi and the others on the spot, they would have died in vain. The Morning Star Academy would not even have the right to pursue the matter. Under such circumstances, ordinary people would have long fled to some corner after feeling the killing intent of the guards. However, Lu Xiaozhong was surprisingly unyielding. He straightened his neck and said, "I didn't do anything. I was only asking. Is that not enough? Do we, the disciples of the Morning Star Academy, not even have this little bit of authority?" As a mid-mountain opening stage expert, the leader of the guards could not be bothered to talk nonsense with such a small fry. He immediately ordered coldly, "Arrest them all." At this time, he was already being very polite by not saying to kill them all on the spot. Of course, he was not a fool. If he really killed them without saying anything, even if the Morning Star Academy could not pursue the matter openly, they would definitely hate him to the core. The three heads of the Morning Star Academy were not people to be trifled with. Seeing that the two early mountain opening stage experts were about to make a move, Lin Yi frowned. He never had the habit of waiting to be captured. Back then, he had dared to challenge the West Mountain Elder when he was only at the Gold Core stage, let alone now. To be honest, with Lin Yi's current strength at the early Profound Ascension stage, facing these mountain opening stage experts was no longer out of reach. If he really wanted to go all out, he might be able to put up a fight. Just as Lin Yi was about to go all out, a stern and somewhat familiar voice suddenly came from afar. "What are you doing? You're blocking the way. Hurry up and get out of the way." When everyone heard the voice, they could not help but exclaim softly. No wonder the voice was familiar. It was the young-looking president of the Alliance. After seeing the president of the Alliance, the mid-mountain opening stage guard captain immediately lowered his head. After bowing with a respectful expression, he respectfully reported, "President, there's a fight here. I'm dealing with it now." "Then why aren't you moving? What's wrong with blocking the way here?" The president glared at him, then turned to the woman beside him with some deliberate humility. He smiled apologetically and said, "Master Zong, I'm sorry to have made a fool of myself in front of you." "Humph, it's nothing." The woman snorted coldly. Although she maintained her youthful appearance, it was easy to tell from her temperament that she was definitely an old woman who had lived for God knows how long. Furthermore, she did not hide the arrogance and harshness on her face. It was as if everyone had to lower their heads in front of her, including the president of the Alliance beside her. "Please, please." The corner of the president's mouth twitched slightly. After signaling the guards to make way, he hurriedly invited the woman to go first. In fact, he was also a very arrogant person, and in terms of strength, he was far above the other party. If it was not for the fact that he needed help from this Master Zong, he would not have been so humble. Perhaps he would have fallen out with her on the spot. The woman glanced arrogantly at the group of mountain opening stage giants, then walked through them with a high attitude. In her eyes, this group of mountain opening stage giants was probably a group of bodyguards. That kind of disdain and contempt was written clearly on her face. However, before she could maintain her noble demeanor to the end, when she caught a glimpse of the situation in front of her, she was instantly stunned. In the next moment, the woman rushed to the front of Chang, lading like a gust of wind. She hugged the guy who smelled burnt and exclaimed, "Ting, or what's wrong with you? Ting, or wake up. Who did this?" When everyone saw this, they immediately understood the identity of this woman. Without a doubt, this woman was Chang Lading's mother, the chief alchemist of the Tripod City Academy, Zhang Zili. You're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.